Hey, welcome, Heavy Metallurgists of the world and YouTube. And hello, Alan. Welcome to kind of a milestone for us 50 episodes of our Friday edition of Heavy Metallurgy. Cheers to you, brother. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Marty. Good to see you this evening.
Good to see
hello.
you.
Hello to everybody joining us out there. Thank you for tuning in yet again to listen to Marty and I ramble on about the old heavy metal stuff with a very special guest coming up in just a moment.
Yeah. And what has it been? Over a year now, I guess you and I got together and did that US power metal discussion over on your channel that started this whole thing going here. And man, it's been a ton of fun, and couldn't imagine doing it with anybody else. Been a great time. Appreciate every weekday, every Friday we've had.
Thank you very much, and I feel the same. It has been really awesome. It's definitely the highlight of the week. Good way to wrap up a long, crummy week at work and just blow it all off. Have some fun talking about the music that we love and enjoy.
Yeah. And before we bring on our guest today, I just wanted to few things. First off, a buddy of mine, Todd Paulson, who is a member of the band Canis Dearest. He is a guitar builder, and he has started his own YouTube channel called Von Art Guitars. He's going through the process of building a guitar from start to finish. He's got just a few followers and a few videos up, but it's one of those things. If you're a gearhead, a guitar guy, these types of channels are always fun just to sit back and zone out, watch to. And looks like he's doing a good job. I just wanted to give him a plug. His link is in the description below if you want to go check out Von Art Guitars.
Cool.
And for those of you that want to support the channel, we've got t-shirts available as always. There's a link in the description, and super chats are enabled. Not that anyone has to do it, but if you do it, thumbs up. And this is Alan's inaugural new mic episode, so it has upgraded him to a little better fidelity. Hopefully you all notice the change. And Alan, you have anything else to add before we bring on our guest?
Oh, nothing big, but yes. So working with the new microphone tonight, so I'm still getting a little bit used to it. So if I bump into things or my voice trails off or something, I'm just getting used to the settings. But Marty and I have tested it out, and it seems to be working quite well. So that's great. Looking forward to tonight's topic quite a bit. If I seem a little flat tonight, I do apologize. It's been a long week at work, but wrapped up at work, headed on home, figured, I got a few hours, spend some quality time with the little one, have some dinner, take my time getting stuff together, pull into the driveway, and my wife meets me there with the lawnmower. 'Tis spring when a young man's fancy turns to thoughts of having to cut the grass. So after spending the day covered in the salty tears of co-eds who have finally realized they're not going to get an A, having missed 3/4 of the semester and done nothing, I'm now also covered in grass clippings. So if I just randomly fall asleep on the keyboard and drool for a while, have no fear, Marty and our guest will cover things while I sleep it off a little bit.
Thanks, Yacht Rock Guy. You're too kind. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's good to see you in the chat tonight. That's very, very nice of you. We really appreciate it.
And you're welcome for the Man of War binge. Sorry, Alan.
No, it's all good. I will do my best to stay awake. I am looking forward to this lot. It's going to be fun. And with that, I think it's high time we brought our guest out.
Yeah. We've got Simon is returned from Explosive Action. Simon, you
Hello.
rule. Thank you for joining us from the other side of the world in the future.
Yes, it is Saturday, 11:05 a.m. I am in the future. And I'm also in
I'm sorry, I'm reading comments. And also Simon is to blame for tonight's topic. Obviously, this one is a bit overdue for us. We haven't really touched upon, there's been death metal shown, and a lot of these things I'm going to show tonight of things I've shown on my channel before and in these streams, but a focused dive into favorite 90s death metal. Obviously, if you watch Explosive Action, and again, link is in the description for that channel. Simon is a definite lover of all things detuned and blasphemous and growly. And what made you bring this to us tonight? I know it was kind of a last minute desperation toss, but what do you think?
Well, it's I guess it's what I always turn to. It's the it was sort of the biggest finding for me in the 90s after, starting off with your mid-90s high school Pantera, Sepultura, Fear Factory. Then I found a Morbid Angel CD. Then I found a Carcass CD and a Cannibal Corpse CD, and that was sort of where I was. And then I remember going on a holiday with the family. I'm 16, 1996. Went on a holiday. After a week, it was fairly nothing exciting. Like, it was definitely like the last family holiday that I went on with my folks. I'd sort of outgrown that kind of thing. Anyway, and the last day I wanted to spend some money. We ended up in a music shop, and not this exact edition, but I picked up this, which is
yes,
Death is Just the Beginning, number 3. So it's not this exact edition. This one's a new one I picked up. It's a fancy box set, but
very cool. Never seen that.
Yeah,
other than you showing it.
I found this one locally. What I picked up, though, which was just a case of, wow, isn't that cover cool? Because I didn't know anything else about it, was this video. Like, wow, Death, and it's like spooky. And I looked at the back of it, and I didn't know who any of these bands were.
Nice.
Gorefest, Amorphous, Benediction, Hypocrisy, Pungent Stench, Conqueror, Dead World, Dismember, Sinister, Therion, Mortification, and more Gorefest. All of this was unknown to me. I just picked it up because it was a tape of heavy metal stuff. It looked cool, looked a bit evil, a bit scary. So took it home, popped it in. That's the tape. Yep, got home from the family holiday, popped it in, and was just blown away. I think the first clip was Gorefest, Confessions of a Serial Killer Live. The first thing that stood out to me was the guitarist was wearing a Carcass shirt, so I had that instant connection, which made me very happy. I think it was played at Dynamo, was it? No, it was at Eindhoven Festival. Yeah. And I just dove straight in. I didn't know really anything about these bands in terms of their geography. It wasn't until later that I started to put together that, like, most of this is Scandinavian. Great. And then, of course, Mortification, which I learned later, was like, oh, they're Australian. Okay, interesting. But they're on German. This is all on a German label, Nuclear Blast. So this was just all new, deep dive stuff as far as I was concerned at the time. And yeah, that's what set me on the path. I think the first band I started to pick up after that was Hypocrisy. The two clips on here were the ones that grabbed me the most. Pleasure of Molestation, which is still the stupidest title ever.
It's an EP, yeah.
Yeah.
An EP. Yep.
Inferior Devotees, which is such an evil song. So, yeah, absolutely love this thing. I only just got the CD in that box set. I never had the CD. I only ever had the tape. So, yeah, that's what started me on this. And when I thought about tonight's topic, just looked at my collection, and it's just what consumes the most of it. And there's still more I'm finding. And also trying to think, when we think of what we mean by Euro death metal, I mean, Europe is huge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the thumbnail that Alan's put together here, for me, that term really does mean mostly Scandinavian.
Yep.
Germanic and Scandinavian countries is what I mean. Like, technically at the time, Bolt Thrower, you could say, is European because the UK was on the continent. But it's not what I think of, not at all. The end of your country needs to end in land, Finland, Greenland. then that's why I consider Euro. So yeah. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling.
How about you, Alan Popoff? What was your first touch with this stuff?
Oh, geez. Hard to remember. I got exposed to some death metal in high school. As I've mentioned before, it was a very small, high school. We were out in the middle of nowhere, so our options were kind of limited. So we heard some stuff, but we didn't really hear a lot of European death metal. Looking back on it, it was more the American bands that people picked up tapes of. We had some Morbid Angel, some Death. We did have Carcass, which was UK, which I'm going to be real good and not try to lump that in with the rest of Europe, because that will get us yelled at. But yeah, it was really not until I went to college that I started hearing more of the European bands, and I sort of very quickly took a shine to the European styles of death metal over some of the American stuff. The local scene, at least around my college, was very heavy on the more brutal end of American death metal, the Cannibal Corpse type stuff, more so than other bands. And that was never my particular favorite flavor of death metal. But as I started coming across some of the different European bands here and there, those tended to appeal to me a bit more. And as I got to know some other metalheads there, they were kind of interestingly in the same boat. They started picking up on these European bands, like, wow, these are just a little more interesting to us for various reasons than the just head down, see how gory and how brutal we can sound type bands. Simon mentioned Volume 3 there. I think Volume 2, it was the first one I picked up.
Me too.
But to be honest, I didn't dive really deep into Volume 2 when I first got it. I played it a bunch, and there were a couple of bands I latched onto, like Deceased and some others, but it was Volume 3 that I really started following up on more and more of the bands on. I thought that was a really well put together compilation, a lot of great cuts, a lot of great bands. And that was one where, yes, like you do with a lot of compilations, you start kind of working your way through. It's like, okay, Hypocrisy, this is really good. Got to go get an album by Hypocrisy. Check. Amorphous. Okay. Yeah. Got to get an Amorphous album. Check. And Dissection. Got to find a Dissection album. Where do I get a Dissection album? God damn it. Where do I get a Dissection album around here? Finally get it. Check. So yeah, that was, sort of my first experiences with it, was hearing some of these bands, start to pop up on the local college radio station, which was the Metal Storm show on Friday and Saturday nights. So got exposed that way, and ended up, liking a lot of the different stuff. Now, kind of a fun random note tied to that, one of my buddies, Matt, who watches the show sometimes from up in Michigan, had a term paper assignment in an English class he had to take, and he ended up writing it on European death metal, because it was one of those, you can pick anything you want. And Matt's like, okay, I'm going to write about European death metal and how it's different from American death metal. You have never seen a college professor more confused trying to figure out what the hell a student was talking about than when he told him that topic. But he let him do it. So, yes, it was critically analyzed for a college class, how European and American death metal were different in the mid-1990s. So, Marty, you said you also checked out Volume 2. Was that your entry, or did you already know stuff beforehand?
No, that was, being a big time, my high school years was all thrash. Love it. My focus was, I liked US thrash as well, but the European stuff just had a darker, seedier, meaner feel to it. And from there, as the years went on, getting into the 90s, thrash was starting to decline a little bit. It's the scene was overrun. I mean, you can kind of say the same thing about modern day death metal too. There are so many everybody that's a fan is typically in a band, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's kind of the truth. You don't see a lot of country music fans. Oh, I like country music. They're not running out, picking up a guitar and starting a band. I think we're kind of in an interesting culture here that creates artists. But I started, picking up things here and there through a friend, and it was the Death is Just the Beginning 2 comp. And then In the Eyes of Death comp, Century Media. We just did a couple episodes back, a big thing on comps, showing all these already. So I could have pulled them and shown them, and we could have done all that again. But they were very instrumental in weaning me off of thrash. I guess thrash had just kind of run its course at that point, and death metal was the new, exciting, invigorating style, much faster, much more lower tuning, just nasty and heavy. And it took the blueprint of thrash and made it evil, I guess. I don't know what to really say. Evil, brutal, however you want to say it. But yeah, I was off and running. Thrash, I still loved it. And I think now older I get, I'm falling back into the thrash pocket again because nostalgia. You get to be an old man, you start thinking of the things that made you happy when you were younger, and
Yep.
everything's cyclical. But yeah, for me, it was comps, the few comps I mentioned, and friends getting into it as well. We're all kind of experiencing and discovering this stuff all at the same time. So it was kind of an exciting time, going to the tape store and buying the stuff your friends weren't buying, so you could like tape trade for each other, make mixtapes and all this other stuff. But
Yep.
yeah, fun and exciting time. The birth of death metal was very exciting, very fun. And the good thing about it is the bigger labels here in the US were pretty damn good at getting those early death metal bands and seeing that they got a wider distribution. So unlike the black metal scene when it was firing off in the 90s as well, a lot of that shit was import. That wasn't, it was later. Century Media had Century Black. They started putting out, some of the stuff that was released by Candlelight and all the other things, Osmos overseas. But early on, Century Media in particular they had their finger on the pulse. So Nuclear Blast, they had Nuclear Blast America, which was Relapse Records. So, and Relapse Records had pretty good distribution at the beginning. So I feel like the US was very fortunate in getting, on par with a lot of these excellent death metal bands right along with Europe as well. So
yeah, a lot of well, pretty much I'd say most of my collection in the late 90s when I was buying would have had to have been import. Australia didn't make much.
Everything, yeah.
Like and the places to get it, all I knew of then was Utopia Records.
Modern Invasion was a big one, weren't they?
Modern Invasion was, that was probably the main importer, and then would sell them on to the places like Utopia Records, Red Eye Records, and a few independent places. And there will be a few Modern Invasion triangle stickers of approval on some of the things I'm showing today, because you can't get them off. They're stuck on with concrete. Anybody that has ever bought one knows that those stickers are there for life. But yeah, any CD for me that was European death metal was, a $39.95 CD.
Holy shit!
Nothing was cheap. Nothing at all was cheap. So you had to buy just one or two things every now and then, pretty much.
Sorry, a lot of people commenting already.
Yeah, it's pumping.
It's
57
pumping. Yep, 57 folks. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we might as well start off with you, Simon. Get us going here. Show us your first round. And you just reminded me of something I needed to grab. So I'll be right back.
No problem. Well, because I've already mentioned them, and I'll just start off with an easy one, because this is a direct connection from the Death is Just the Beginning CDs. One of the first albums I got. This is the edition that I've always had. This is Hypocrisy Abducted.
Nice.
Yeah, this was a phenomenal album. It had that really thick death metal sound I wanted, but it had heaps of melody in it. So it's a kind of a good gateway album in that way, I think. If you're young teen and you're getting into death metal, this is actually a pretty good album to start off with, I think. Obviously, the main track, Roswell 47, is just a very mid-paced, foot-stomping kind of track. Has a chorus you can sing along to. Like, it's very easy, digestible album. It gets some of the tracks in the middle get a bit more nuts. Like I think it's Point of No Return, I think, was kind of a crazy track from memory. And then the last two tracks. Yeah, it's a great album. The last two tracks, Slipping Away and Drained, are these depressing, slow, like everybody's dying kind of tracks. But yeah, this thing was huge for me. I'm surprised this digipack is still holding together, but it is. Came out in 96, I think. And I saw the track Roswell 47, the video clip on the Death is Just the Beginning 4 VHS, which I got very soon after number 3. And for the longest time, and I'm talking at least 15 years, I didn't realize that it wasn't Peter Tagdren on the first two albums. I thought he just lost a lot of weight. changed his vocals and made them a bit more raspy or something. But no, yeah, different singer on the first two. Okay, took me a long time to put those dots together, but yeah, fantastic album. Really dig this one. Always gets played.
Yep, excellent choice for sure.
Nice choice. Alan.
Let's see. All right. Now, some of these I want to have to show on my phone tonight because I don't have hard copies of everything anymore. There's a chunk of this stuff that I got rid of years and years ago. Some of it I've picked back up, some I haven't. But I also had a Hypocrisy one on my stack, so let's just go ahead and do that. The first one I started with off of the Death Comp was I found this one, The Fourth Dimension. I think I literally got the Death Volume 3 on one trip to the record store, and the next trip to that same record store, I got Fourth Dimension by Hypocrisy because it had stood out to me. And this was the album where they really started to branch out and sound a little different. The first two albums, of course, were very good, but they were very focused on a style. And right away on this album, you start that first track, Apocalypse, and it's just incredibly heavy and slow, very
Mellow.
slow. But yes, there's a melodic element that's worked into it. It's very slow. It's very doomy. And it's oppressively dark sounding. The first two albums they're doing evil, but more in the fast, aggressive style evil. On this one, kind of like you said, Simon, with some of the tracks, from that album too, when Hypocrisy slows it down, they get just leaden heavy, and it's a very dark, murky kind of evil sound. I've always preferred Hypocrisy when they gear it down like that. Their fast stuff can be really good too, but I've always thought the band really stood out and excelled when they slow it down and just let the weight land on you. And there's several songs on this one that do that. Apocalypse does it. Reincarnation is just crushingly heavy the same way. And so, it's it's not a good looking album. This one, if I remember right, it's the guitarist who's kind of gone overboard with his tinfoil hat there, just a tad. But and it loses the classic Hypocrisy logo, sadly, and about the cover. But nevertheless, it's got some standout tracks on it. Hypocrisy for me is one of those bands that every album always had a few highlights. The albums could be consistently good, but there'd be 2 or 3 standout tracks on each one that I always really liked. You pointed out some of the best ones from that album, and on this album, Fourth Dimension, it was the slow tracks where I was just like, oh damn, that is heavy, and got me going back to check out more of their catalog over the years. Hypocrisy is one of those bands I haven't revisited in a long time. They've been on the short list of bands to do Hypocrisy week on to kind of freshen up. So I've been playing a couple of theirs here over the past week or so, and it's fun to go back and rediscover just how heavy some of those tracks are. But I will also start with Hypocrisy.
They've probably released the same album about 5 times, like recent years. Like they're pretty similar. They've got their theme down pat, and you're either on board or you're not. With the exception of that Catch-22, that was just a response.
That was bad.
Not on board. Not on board with that one.
No. It's the only one I'm missing from the collection, and that's very intentional. They even realized that, and they re-recorded it or remastered it or something, but that didn't help the fact the songs were hot garbage.
Yeah. But you are right, Simon. I think that was one reason I kind of haven't, I kind of eventually just drifted away from the band, was that their albums can get a little samey from one album to another. That you're right. They found their lane and they stuck to it.
Oh, yeah.
Not
Definitely.
a bad thing necessarily, but after a while, it's kind of like, well, do I really need to get the new Hypocrisy album? It's a lot like the last Hypocrisy album. Maybe I'll skip this one and
particularly
years later.
The newest one, the one that's come out, whatever it was last year or this year, is you could. It's decent, but it's like a lesser best of. Every song is an emulation of something from another album, and they've done it before. Yeah, that one. Like, it's fine, but everything on there is like, oh, that sounds like something of Final Chapter. Oh, that one sounds like it's from the Self-Titled.
Yeah.
This one sounds like it's from Abducted, and it's just Taste of Extreme Divinity is a really, really good one. That's probably, I agree with that statement. It's probably the best of the new stuff.
Yeah, very good album.
And it
I've stuck with them. I'm a little slow. I don't always get them when they come out, but I eventually track them down. I always enjoy them. Do they have a lot of staying power? Probably not. But
that Extreme Divinity one is the one that I've been like, if I'm either playing old stuff like this or I'm playing that one. So
Right.
yeah, I'd say, Alan, if you want to check one out that's newer, check out Taste of Extreme Divinity.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep that one in mind. So yeah, I need to at least check out some of the newer stuff. I mean, I haven't avoided it for any reason. It just, they're buried on that list of, things you mean to get back around to, and it takes a while to make to the top sometimes. But yeah, always a consistent band, always good. All right, Marty, what do you want to officially kick that off with?
Well, I'm going to fire off with probably one of the top 10 favorite European death metal albums for me. And this thing, I look at it and I want to play it. It's so good. And it's Sinister's Cross the Styx.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, a lot of people will gravitate towards their second album, Diabolical Summoning. When people talk about Sinister, they often mention that as their favorite. And I guess I get it. It's them kind of moving away from the style on this album to embrace more of a US brutal death metal vibe, kind of like a little bit of Suffocation in the Diabolical Summoning, which is fine. But man, coming from this album, there's a lot of thrash elements on this thing. There's real complex song structures. The riffs are all over the place. It's so technical, but somehow they have their finger on a very catchy, memorable feel in the riffs. It's a total air guitar album. I love this thing. This is an ultimate road trip album. So what if I didn't say this came out in 1992? Absolutely killer Netherlands death metal. They never really came back around to this style, although later in their career they put out an album called Afterburner, which is kind of getting back into this a little bit. It's a really great album, really catchy. A lot of feeling and movement in the riffs. Is it as crazy thrash as this? But holy crap. Cross the Styx, Compulsory Resignation, Epic of Denial. This is just a great album from start to finish. Alex Kroll produced this from Atrocity.
No,
you can hear in between one of the takes, someone says, "Alex, fuck you," on there. It's kind of a little, I don't know why he's even mentioned that, but yeah, Alex Kroll from Atrocity was also a really cool death metal band in the 90s, but really lost their way rather quickly. But yeah, that's where I'm starting. 1992, absolutely killer. Forget Diabolical Summoning. Check out Cross the Styx if you have not gone down that path yet. It's
a great album. It's a great album, but I can't forget Diabolical Summoning. It's it's the one that was on the Death is Just the Beginning 4, I think.
It's a great album. I like that album too, but
the guitar tone is what I love about it. It's just it's a nasty guitar tone.
Yep.
And the hilarious clip for, I think it's The Awakener, I think it's the name of the song, which is like somebody's gone to the Halloween store and got the $2 like demon thing, and it's the worst clip you've ever seen. But I love that song, that album. But I've turned into more Cross the Styx lately because of the LP reissues. I think is it Cosmic Keys did the reissues of the first three. Yeah. And that was also the first time I finally heard Hate, because the Hate CD was really
good.
That was challenging to find. I couldn't find that for a long time. I don't know why. But it exactly. It is a good album. It just I don't know. It didn't make its way here easier, or maybe I just missed it. But yeah, Sinister's a good band.
Yep. Yeah, Diabolical is one of those albums I bought blind just based on the cover art. Just at the record store, flipping through the random pile of S CDs one day, and saw that, and just like, I do not know this band, but I am buying that album because it is still, I think, one of just personal favorite piece of cover art from a 90s death metal album. That cover is just, it's really well done and really creepy. So yeah, that alone made it. They got my money without me even needing to hear a note of their music.
Oh, that happens a lot.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that happens a lot.
All right, Simon.
Back to me, is it? Okay. Where to next? Okay. This one was around about 2008 or so. I started to I don't know what happened. I just did a bit of a deep dive into getting a lot of Euro death metal bands that I'd missed. CDs were slightly cheaper at that time. eBay was becoming more of a thing, and I could start getting all this weird and wacky stuff from Poland and strange sellers and things like that. One of them I picked up was this one, Pertinence.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Sorry to cut you off there, Simon.
You're all right. Donations are flowing in.
Too cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this one's a Pertinence, member of Immortal Damnation, Finnish band. This one came out in 92.
It's a good album.
Yeah, it's a good album. I'd never heard of them at the time. This came out on Drowned Productions. Was a fairly rare CD. I think it's been reissued now, but yeah, pushed the boat out a little bit when I saw it land on eBay. Pre-course of this cover, I went, who's this band? That cover is fantastic. Dug into it, and that's what got me. I think this actually might have been the second Finnish death metal album I ever got. And it's just like chunky, thick, classic Finnish sound. They might not have the imagination that some of the other bands had. They're a bit more by the numbers, but they might have got a bit buried at the time this came out. But I think in hindsight, it's a really, really strong album. There you go. CD. So yeah, Pertinence. I think they were called Pertinence Evulsion on the demos. And they just shortened it. So yeah, really strong album. They reformed. A lot of these bands have reformed. Convulse have done it. So many of them have done it. They came back in 2012 with an EP and I think like 3 albums since then. Can't say I've heard them. Don't know if it's going to be any good. But yeah, this one's great. Pertinence, member of Immortal Damnation.
I think they did, Oregon. I think they just reissued that recently-ish, last year or so. I don't remember for sure, but I'm sure you can find yourself a sweet Russian boot. Well, maybe not anymore, but the Russia's been kind of cut off from eBay and everything else.
Yeah.
All right.
I hadn't actually thought of that. That's interesting. I wonder if the Russian boot scene is going to dwindle.
Well, they're taken off of eBay, so there's been a lot less of them on there.
Huh.
Okay. Hadn't thought about that.
I had another.
Yeah, this is a very expensive topic.
Yes,
Strap yourself in, Stefano. I got like 30 CDs.
All right, Alan.
Did somebody mention Finnish death metal?
Oh, I'm ready. I've got one lined up too. There's gonna be a lot of them tonight.
I want to go with a pretty obvious one, but a classic I can't bypass on this topic. Tales from the Thousand Lakes with Amorphous. Now, of course, Corellianismus, the band was already established, had a good reputation. This was the album that really got them, on their way to becoming, a much bigger name in heavy metal circles, though. I remember when this came out, it got very positive, very interesting reviews. And it's like, that sounds really neat. It looks really cool. And I couldn't find it to save my life. This one I had to do as an import order through the local indie record store. And, they tracked it down in a couple of weeks, and it just fell in love with it. I think I had already gotten the Black Winter Day EP, and that one I had been able to find at a record store. But I'd heard a couple of tracks from this on, again, college radio was playing some of these tunes. And I was just rabid to get this album based on what I had heard, and I was not disappointed at all. This was a big album for me and my friends at the time. This was one of those albums that really kind of cemented in our heads, just how good and how interesting some of the European death metal bands were becoming. That, they could, of course, still sound very brutal and very heavy when they wanted to, but they were also not afraid to try all these other different elements and, incorporate some other things into the music, that it wasn't just extremity for the sake of who can play the fastest blast beat or who can come up with the, goriest album cover. It's just like, no, there's a lot more depth that they're exploring here. And that really appealed to some of us. It was a very interesting album. This is where they were starting to work in some of those they were always collectively referred to as 70s influences into the music here, but it still had the death metal structures and flavoring. This, of course, was the last album where they did, a reasonable amount of heavier vocals. It became more and more rare. And after this, the band, went down a very different pathway. Not a bad pathway, just a very different sound. They never really revisited this style, at least to my knowledge. It was kind of a shame because it was they had a really sweet, it hit a really sweet spot here between where they would go on, you know, the next album, Elegy, and where they had been before this with Corellia. But yeah, one of my favorites, still, you know, one of the albums I'll reflexively list or reach for when we're talking about, you know, the heavy death stuff from this particular era. A long time personal favorite, and probably always will be.
Yep. That's
I gotta say, Corellianismus, that is like pinnacle dark dismal death metal for me. I love that record. When Tales came out, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, hold the phone. This is starting to sound a little fruity tooty.
Is that piano on that I hear?
But then it was so catchy. That went away, and Tommy's vocals were still nice and sick, and it was just a very nice. It was a good transition. It's something they, you know, I don't know if they could have kept putting out Corellian, but and they certainly progressed way beyond that album on the next one, but which I hated initially, but I ended up loving because it's really catchy. But
yeah,
still a great album.
Yeah, if they probably could have done, you know, more good albums like Corellia, they might have gotten lost in the mix though with so many.
Wouldn't have made it. They probably wouldn't have had a foothold.
They might have just gotten lost in the noise going on. So going in that more unique pathway, I know it cost them fans along the way, but it obviously worked out well for them. They're still going quite strong. They just released a new album earlier this year, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Or maybe it was the tail end of last year, but there's a new one out there. They're still doing their thing, and they found their unique niche, and it obviously worked out well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Marty, let's send it over to you for another pick.
All right, I'm stuck in Finland. This is just straight up carcass worship, but this album fucking crushes. I love it. Grey Misery by Disgrace.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, this one.
This is
that's brilliant.
You could tell these guys look like they're all 14 years old on the back cover here. But this album, it's really grimy, dirty sounding. Like I said, very Carcass, Symphonies of Sickness influenced. And wow, what an album. Really unassuming album cover. Very strange, but doesn't really tell you much what's on this album, but just super sick. And how they took that Symphonies of Sickness sound and they stripped it down a little bit more, and the mid-pace stuff is a little harder hitting, a little crunchier, a little more movement in the riffs. Absolutely stunning record.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That was in my pile as well. Got that one on CD maybe 15 years ago, but I found the LP last year, which was very happy days. And yeah, you hit it right on the head there, that it's in the Symphony of Sickness, but like Euro version.
Yeah.
Yeah, It really is. Fantastic album.
Dual vocals. I should have mentioned that too. There's like a dual vocal thing going on too, which also harkens back to the Symphony's influence, but good shit.
Cool.
And Simon.
Because I don't know that one.
Check it out. It's fun. My Dark Paradise. What a great fucking song. Is that the name of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great album.
First song off the beat.
Well, since we're onto LPs, I'll show one as well. This is Mega Slaughter.
I need to get that. I've never even heard that album. I've heard so many people talking about it. I need to track down a copy of that.
One of those ones that was lost in the noise again. Like This is Calls from the Beyond, 1991. It's actually pretty early. Swedish band. Very underrated. Exactly like you were saying. It's everyone talks about it now. I don't think they did it the day. It's pretty obscure stuff. But yeah, it's ripping. Like the tracks are ripping. It's mostly fast. It's pretty raw and primitive sounding. The rawness might have let them down. Maybe that's why this didn't take off. Probably also the label. It's on Thrash Records, not particularly a big label or anything like that. But this is a great album now in hindsight. Definitely, if you can pick it up, it might be challenging. Not sure if it's had a reissue. Not too sure. When I was looking up some info on it, I saw that the drummer, Patrick Raffling, went on to Hammerfall, which is a far sight from Mega Slaughter. So there you go.
Yeah.
Is there anything fun in here?
Well, Hammerfall also has a guy from Crystal Age and Ceremonial Oath.
2 guys from Crystal Age. Yep.
Yeah. And Ceremonial
Yeah,
Oath had
that one.
Jesper Stromlad on drums on that band too.
If you see the bottom line here on the thanks list, we have a fuck off to Lisa in brackets, a negative bitch, apparently. Miss XL, it just says die. And then blue balls and all poses. So, yeah, there you go.
Somebody got stood up.
I think you're right. Yeah. So there you go. Mega Slaughter.
What's up, Chromie?
Hey, Philip.
All right. Oh, I guess one thing we could bring up here before Alan gets into his pick, but one thing that I've always really, in going back to 90s death metal, what sets it apart for me, not only the riffs, there's, I think, more attention played on riffs, but the super fast blast beats really weren't a part of the equation at this point. I don't think that whole grind influence. I think, more modern death metal perfected that grind beat, tidied it up, made it cleaner, more exacting. But you don't hear a lot of that turbocharged, super fast speed in those early 90s death metal. It was more about songs. And like nowadays, like this new old school of death metal, I've said it a million times on here, it's more about sound and feel. There's like a big cavernous sound. You got a good vocalist up front and just some pretty down-tuned, simplistic riffs. But back here in the 90s, there was some of that, but a lot of it was a little bit more song structure oriented and not a lot of super crazy blast beats. So that's one defining factor, I think, of the 90s that has kind of been lost as musicians get better in their craft. A
lot of the demo days of these bands definitely was grindier, probably just because they were just plugging everything in and playing as fast as possible. Like Preamorphous, the Abhorrence demos is just blast fest. But then I think all these bands got past the demo stage and learned to play a bit better.
Yep.
And it did become more song structures and less about speed for the most part.
Okay, Alan.
All right. Did somebody say Finnish death metal? Let's stay there for at least a little bit longer. Another one, my story on this one is very similar to my story on Amorphous. It's Sentenced, North from Here.
Great album.
Incredible album. This was another one where I'd heard a couple of songs on college radio. I don't think I'd heard anything on a compilation. I can't remember any of the comps having a track from Sentenced on them. Maybe I'm drawing a blank. But regardless, I'd heard enough on the local metal radio show that I had to check this out. It was getting some interesting reviews. It was even getting some reviews from folks that really weren't typically into death metal, and even they were really talking this one up. So it was back to the indie record store. Fill out another custom order import. Pricey stuff, but this one got it, and it was always a very interesting and very intense listening. You're just reading the track list. You look at it and it's like, my sky is darker than thine. It's just like, okay, this is going to be some heavy shit. Fields of Blood, Harvester of Hate, Capture of Fire. Always liked the band picture a lot. Sorry if there's a little glare. Trying to angle it so there's not. And it's a very unique sounding album. Doesn't sound anything at all like their debut. Doesn't sound anything like their third album either, which those are albums in their own right, but very different in style. This album leans towards black metal.
Yeah, it does
quite a bit. And some people I've heard, consider it more of a black metal album. I've always thought of it as a death metal album because maybe it's just because most of the rest of their catalog is death metal. But regardless, it's just a very vicious album. The way they attack with the vocals are very sharp. I mean, they come across as very spiteful, very, very hate-filled, really sharp, riffs, guitar work. The song structures are just, everything here is meant to cut. Everything here is meant to, pierce, and it just works extremely well. The album's held up great over time. It's still one of the classics. I liked the band through the first 3 albums. After that, of course, once Jarva left, I never really felt like the band was quite the same. They, again, like Amorphous, went down a very different path. And it wasn't a path I particularly cared for. I wasn't as into their sort of, goth metal years. They, of course, had great success with it, got a lot more fans than they ever did, with the first 3 albums. So, hey, power to them. They did quite well. But for me, it's very much about those early albums. And North from Here, there's just nothing much else that sounds like that album. It is a nasty, vicious album, and I love it.
Well, their first 4 albums, they reinvented themselves every time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
More or less.
Yep. And 3 times they got it right.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's great. Love it. I'm a big sucker for Amok. I love that record, but
I almost picked Amok, but we've talked about it several times. Like we don't talk about North from Here as much. So tonight I'm heading north.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Good choice. Well, I'm still up in Scandinavia. Not that Finland is Scandinavia, but this album is a lot more of a commercial type of death metal album from Gothenburg, Sweden. Very melodic, but this is probably a top 20 favorite for me. It's so well written. In Flames, The Jester Race.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Quality.
Moon Shield, Artifacts of the Black Rain. I mean, every single song on here is just a massive hook. It's just so catchy, and those brutal vocals so well produced over the top. It's just the movement and flow. It's like pop death metal, but not going into the cheesy route. It's just a very well written. The melodies and the harmonies, exquisite, absolutely exquisite. Shit will stick in your head way after it's done. Whenever I throw this on, it stays on the table for a week. I love it. Yeah, it's barely death metal. It's a very poppy, Scott. I know what you're saying, but it's so good. Wait, what's this, Scott? You'll probably hate it, but man, I love that record. It's the beginning of their gothic phase. But yeah, definitely, if you've never heard the Jester Race, this is a band that completely went to absolute dog shit after a while. And after this album, they kind of started to slip. The 2 after this are okay, but this is kind of hard to follow up something this well written and without, becoming a derivative, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely love that album. The one after it, Horacle, I actually find I've been playing a lot more these days. I think it's got a thicker sound to it.
Yep.
It is very much just a bouncy, accessible metal album, but it's good. And then after that, what is it? Colony. It's got a couple of okay tracks, but then that's sort of the end of it. Clayman was the start of the end, and
Yep. I like everything up through Colony, but and even Colony, like the first half of Colony, I like.
Exactly.
The second half, it starts to lose.
It doesn't really stick, but Horacle and Jester Race. Jester Race is just
So everybody, it looks like we know who our next week's guest is. Chromie D will be returning. I don't think we're going to be talking dance mix, but we'll figure something out.
We might not be talking dance mix. Don't rule it out. You never know. Yeah. Stranger things have happened. Maybe.
All right, Simon.
Did someone say Finnish death metal?
They did.
Just because Alan mentioned it and I had it in the stack anyway. So, Sentence Debut. For me, this is the one I play the most now. North from Here is the one that got me onto the band, but this one, it's just nasty. It is thick and ugly. They like we were saying that every album they did after the first 4 was they're all very different, but this one's just brutal, absolutely brutal. For some reason, the thing's upside down on the back. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, this came out on Thrash Records as well as, I guess, as the Mega Slaughter. Fairly hard to get this edition. I'm sure it's been reissued 1,000 times now.
Yeah, I just got a recent reissue on vinyl actually last year.
Okay. Yeah, cool. But this is the one that definitely gets played the most these days. I put it on last week when I was having a bit of a Finnish kick. I love that artwork on it, hand drawn with just sort of spot color. Really, really good. Not particular tracks standing out, but it's just all together just a nice, big, chunky, nasty Finnish death metal album. So yeah, Sentenced with Shadows of the Past.
All right,
can't go wrong with early Sentenced material.
No, you cannot. Alan.
All right. Well, this one we made a reference to earlier, and I was going to bring it up anyway. The Crystal Age album from
I need to get
95.
that damn CD too. It's hard to find and it's expensive.
It is. I think Ben from Brain Smasher mentioned that it was supposed to be reissued. So maybe it has, or maybe it's about to be. Because yeah, this was one I heard once upon a time. Thought it was pretty cool, and promptly forgot about it for a long time. But yeah, it's been a few months ago, but Ben mentioned it and talked it up on his Brain Smasher channel. I think he had just tracked down a copy, if I remember correctly. And I was just like, oh yeah, I remember that album. That was kind of cool. And as we alluded to earlier, it's the guy from Ceremonial Oath. This was kind of his next project, and then he and one of the other members got going with Hammerfall. One of these two bands did slightly better than the other, so one of these bands had to be put aside. So Crystal Age never really got a follow-up.
Put down like Old Yeller.
He's like, I love you, but I must kill you. Because the other project is going to make me money and famous. The Crystal Age album, now, I'm not going to claim it's like, the best death metal album in history, but it's got some interesting things going on. The guitar work is really, really good on it. I like it a lot. It's a Gothenburg. It doesn't have the typical Gothenburg sound. It's a bit more aggressive, a little more American sounding maybe than what you think of with the Dark Tranquilities and In Flames of the world. The album, the cover feels very much like a Nocturnus type of album cover. There's some sci-fi themes to the lyrics. There's a complete direct ripoff with a Darth Vader sound clip in the middle of it. She's like,
so good.
"Oh, it's good you guys are in Sweden because George Lucas be suing your ass if you ever set foot in America." That's maybe why they had to change their name to Hammerfall, try to hide from Lucasfilm's lawyers. Musically they use keyboards kind of similar to Nocturnus, just not as much. You can hear some Morbid Angel isms in there. So I don't know that Nocturnus was a huge influence or anything, but the album very much does feel like somebody saw Thresholds, listened to Thresholds on the key and thought to themselves, we're going to try to do something kind of similar to that. And they do a fair enough job of it. It's not the best album ever recorded, but it's a decent listen. If it wasn't so damn expensive and hard to find, I'd have a copy of it on the shelf back there. Instead, we'll look at it on my phone. And hi, Simon.
Split into acts. I don't know why they split it into
acts.
Acts.
Yeah, that's right. It's all act one, and each there's like 2 of each act, isn't there? Because there's 5 acts but 10 songs.
Yeah.
It's a weird breakdown.
Those leather pants.
Oh, the dude from Hammerfall really didn't change his wardrobe much between Crystal Age. He didn't want to throw that out with the band. I'm going to save this for Hammerfall.
This look is timeless, man. It transcends genres.
It's a really great album. I was trying to work out what I thought it sounded like, and I kept thinking it was like a blackened version of the Gardens of Grief at the Gates EP. That's sort of where my mind was going.
Right.
With Darth Vader sample, just brilliant.
All right. Did someone say Finnish death metal?
I find your lack of copyright infringement disturbing.
Which one am I going to go with here? I've got two for the win, but I'll go with this one first. Diabolical Summoning.
Oh yes, of course.
It had to happen. Yeah,
of course.
Had to happen. This is kind of a one and done album. This band is still touring, playing these songs, but has never conjured up the testicular fortitude to try to follow it up, which is kind of sad. This is super technical, crazy, down-tuned death metal with the Predator singing on it.
yeah.
And it's is it the most memorable thing ever written? No, but it's a pretty cool novelty that really works well. I mean, it's just a very technical, crushing, and the vocals are just ridiculous, and it makes it fun. It's a fun listen because of the vocals. But why this band is never, I mean, people say, oh, you do something so great, why would you try it? Well, being a musician is moving forward, and you get done writing an album, I just want to start writing another one. It's just kind of the way it goes. And for the fact that there's let's just go out on tour, play a few shows, sell a few shirts, and play this stuff over and over and over again. But this is the Pavement Necropolis version.
It's the same one I've got. I
Is
love
it?
the hand drawn sort of crappy zombies.
Oh yeah, yeah. Again, it's kind of like the sentence thing. You got someone's 15-year-old sister got a pack of colored pencils for Christmas.
The price on that thing went through the roof.
Really?
Yeah, I remember picking it up secondhand for a few bucks. I think mine's got maybe a punch hole through the UPC. And I think it's been reissued now, but for ages that was a $150 CD.
Wasn't there like a box set that came out too that has like the demos
Yeah.
in it? Yeah.
Well, they've become a cult band for the modern, old school sounding death metal bands. It's like the reference point for so many of them, and their songs are getting covered. There's a Chinese death metal band called Multifission, who are really good. They sound like Demolition. They even cover one of the songs. And yeah, like you're saying, like they're still touring. They're playing at all the big things, the MDF shows, and just playing the same songs. That's what they do. Great band though.
Hold on, you're up, Simon. Let me get you.
Am I? It's me.
Yep.
Oh. Where am I going? Okay. Yeah, I should have prepared. I shall go. All right. So I saw someone in the chat say, when are we getting to this one? So technically, this is the first pressing on CD of Convulse. World Without God. Sorry. It was an LP only thing until maybe 2010 or so when this came out. Relapse got it, put it on CD for the first time, and it came on. I remember buying it as a pack. You got the CD and the shirt, shipped directly from Relapse. Back when buying from America to Australia only took a week and a half. Those days are long gone. But anyway, this along with one of the other Finnish bands I will be showing very, very soon is one that I always go back to the most. It is completely evil, dark, vicious sounding album. I don't even know where to go with this one. I can say that everything they did after it was garbage. I know that I think Matt from Dark Path rates some of their later material, but I've tried.
Some people do, but it's not as good as that. It's just not. Yeah,
for me, they're one and done. I've tried the other stuff, but yeah, it's such a good album, and it's got the 1990 Resuscitation of Evilness demo and some live tracks. So yeah, you can get it on a LP. I've got the LP reissued too now. It's on Svart. I think they did it. I think it was Svart. The original LP, yeah, that's a tough one to get, but pretty fantastic Finnish DM. Love that one.
Okay, Alan.
All right, so I will leave Finland at least for a little while, and
I'll bring us back. Don't worry, I'll bring us back.
Oh yeah, we always return to Finland. But I'll drift over to a country we may not mention a whole lot tonight. Let's go to Norway, and let's go with the Turnus. And so
so good, but not the one I would have picked.
Well, we've talked about, yes, Beyond the Wandering Moon has come up, in discussions a few times, and I love this album too. So I figured it was this album's turn to get a little love tonight.
So good.
Yeah, early Eternus, really interesting, cool, and pretty unique sound. Very deep, very dark, but again, has a melodic strain through it all the time. You hear it on their demo, you hear it on the Dark Sorcery EP, which is fantastic. Beyond the Wandering Moon, great album. Again, straddling, Black and Death or Deathy Black, or maybe there's some war elements thrown in there, but on the slower end, not the chaotic end. And this album, was kind of following suit. With this album, it's a little more straightforward than Beyond the Wandering Moon. Some of the songs on that album, they're excellent. They do tend to go on for a while. not necessarily a bad thing, but those songs, some of those songs, they really just let them roam. This album's a little more compact. They kind of keep things on track a little bit more, but it's still, diverse pacing. You've got, very fast, aggressive chugging songs. You've got slower ones. You've got some that are, meant to be more epic, some that have more of a marching tempo to them. And it's just a very interesting album, and not a lot of bands operated in this musical territory.
That's very true. It's pretty unique.
Yeah, it kind of is, and it's kind of interesting that nobody did try to follow up on it. This one came out, got excellent reviews. This one was a pain for me to find when it came out. Nobody seemed to be carrying it. I didn't have access to an indie store at the time, so I couldn't special order it. And so once I started finding it, I would buy it every time I saw it. There was one point where I had like 4 different pressings of this on CD, just because I'd find it just like, hey, got to have it. I might lose the other 3. You never know. This particular one's a 2 CD version. I think that was only on, supposedly you could only get it from like when they were touring or something. It was like the tour edition. That's got some extra tracks on it, which is, cool. But yeah, excellent band, really unique, dark, heavy, but melodic style to them. After this album, they started losing that uniqueness.
They got more brutal.
They focused more on the brutality and kind of lost all the things that made them stand out. They weren't bad at the brutal style. Some of those albums, Burning the Shroud, I think was one. They're not bad, but they start sounding like a lot of other more brutal death metal bands. And so it's kind of like, well, I could listen to that, but I could listen to something else that sounds like it.
They got pretty boring. I think the one after that was, my memory serves, as Shadows of Old, I think.
Shadows of Old is one of them. Yeah.
That was a decent follow-up, but it kind of stops there. Then they did get very just nasty, blasty death metal.
Which... Yeah, and it really didn't work out. And here's a case where it did not work out, changing to that, more basic, sort of generic style. Hey, the band, they soldiered on, but it never elevated them because they sounded like everybody else at the time. I really wish they had stuck to their guns, maybe tried doing more in this style. Hey, it may not have worked out. You don't know, but as it is, the early part of their catalog is really good, and the later part is, you can kind of take it or leave it.
They've come back around. I picked up the album Heathen. It's starting to sound more like older.
Yeah, that's good to know.
You mentioned that a while back, and I haven't followed up on that. I need to do so.
It's a good album.
Yeah,
and Beyond the Wandering Moon always struck me as like a Norwegian bolt thrower. That
a little bit.
The real expansive sound, a little atmosphere built in from their black metal roots, maybe a little bit. And God, it's so good. So I refrained from showing it because I knew you were going to show some Eternus. I love Beyond the Wandering. I love that one too, but Beyond the Wandering Moon is an absolute classic. I love that record.
Yeah. Bolt Thrower is definitely a good reference point for folks that might be unfamiliar with the band. That's a good starting point. All right, Marty, what you got next?
Did someone mention Finland?
You're gonna make me angry now.
Yeah, it's down to where you know what it is I'm about to show, and people have been clamoring for it in the chat. So
give the people what they want.
Demigod, The Slumber of Sullen Eyes. This is an absolutely devastating album. It's like from start to finish, utter brutality. This could be like Finland's version of early Deicide, but I think better. I think it's better. Bunch of young guys just absolutely crushing. They put out an album years later, that really sucked. I can't remember the name of it. It doesn't matter. This is the only one you really need.
Agreed.
Like I said, unrelenting brutality from start to finish. There's some memorable stuff. There's some catchiness, but it's just so well composed. It's a very brutal statement. It's brutal without being U.S. brutal, if that makes any sense. The U.S. brutality had a bit of a hardcore mix to it, the pit boss type death metal. This is not that. It's just straight up Euro dark, Finnish brutality. Not that Finland's European, but we're clumping them into European. They're a part of the European Union, so that's fair. But wow. And again, this is another one. The CD and the vinyl are both not cheap. Get ready to dig deep into your oh, look at there. Is that a repress or is that an OG?
That's an OG.
Oh, Australia, he cries about not getting shit, but every time he's like, "Hey guys, I went to the store. Look at this rare shit I picked up
I just found this on the street. It was just sitting out there.
in a free pile."
A
Yeah, that's
kangaroo hopped down the street and it was just hanging out of its pouch, and you just reached out and plucked it right out of
Joey
there.
handed it out to me. He said, "Papa, Papa." This is a just classic. The actual title track on it, "Slumber of Sullen Eyes," has the best ending. Just massive hook, and like it takes this there's this little twiddly bit, builds up a huge momentum, and just crushes in with the thundering double kick and the vocals, and just screaming out "Slumber of Sullen Eyes." It's just so good. Fantastic.
So good.
It's my favorite Finnish death metal album.
Crushing.
Yeah, it's a great one.
You're up, Simon. I'm just gonna
Not me.
I'm gonna leave you big.
You leave me big. All right. This is
Simon, before you
Yes.
start, just interesting comment here from I think Metal Neanderthal had he mentioned that a lot of these Finnish death metal bands seem to be kind of one and done bands. Does anybody have any insights as to why that might have been? Why didn't these bands follow up? Was there something about the scene, lack of exposure?
You've been reading through that Finnish death metal book. From what I've been gathering, I mean, a lot of them just by the time their album came out, they were already bored of it. That seems to be a general theme. And they wanted to go on and do something else. And they either disbanded or they radically changed their sound, like Zeisma.
Yeah.
They said, "No, we're going to do some stoner rock now." And it's just
Or Pyogenesis or Pyogenesis.
even Amorphous, like they just kept changing. It just seems to be what they did. Either give it up or change direction.
Yep.
And that's a good point, because they were all kids. They were all.
Or they went on to bigger bands. That's another part too.
Yeah.
But Metal Neanderthal, good observation.
Good
okay,
one,
sorry, Simon. Just thought that'd be
No,
interesting.
they're all good. All right. So this is pioneering. This is God Macabre.
Nice. That's a great
Winter
album.
Long. Sweden. We're back in Sweden, 1993. Real pioneering stuff, this one. And again, another band did one album. I'm not sure if they've done EPs or anything, but this is pretty much it. This is the one. Sunlight Studios, drenched sound with this one. I really love the kick drum sound on this. It's got such a great punch. This is on MBR Records. There we go. MBR Records.
I got the Relapse vinyl reissue of it.
Yeah, Relapse picked it up and got it. This is incredibly difficult to find this edition, but Relapse have been reissuing this for 15 years or something now, so it's easy up to get. I play this one all the time. A funny kind of story. Obviously, my name is Explosive Action, and half of what I do is action movies rather than all of this death metal stuff. And I buy Japanese VHS, which you see in some of my updates, because obscure action movies, Japanese VHS. A couple of years ago, I bought a few very obscure films on tape on eBay, and I ended up messaging the seller and saying, "What else do you have?" He messaged me back on Facebook. I guess he was just sleuthing me. Long story short, it turned out to be what's his name? Per Boda, the singer from God Macabre. So that was a real clash of worlds. I'm talking to the singer of God Macabre, and he's sending me Japanese VHS tapes of 1986 action movies. Okay, so that was a fun day for me. But this is an absolute crushing album. Crushing is the best word for this one. You got some cool artwork inside. Not sure if the reissue's got any difference to this. It's just 7 tracks. I don't know if the reissue's got extra bits and bobs on it, but
Great album.
Great album. Yeah.
All right. Sir Popoff.
All right, just catching up in the comments. Lots of folks there. Good to see a lot of the regulars tonight, and folks are mentioning all kinds of cool albums. Okay, so for my next one, I was going to pick Consuming Impulse, but technically it came out in 89, and tonight we're doing 90s stuff. So I was like, okay, well, let's see. It's like womp womp. But Testimony of the Ancients, haven't played that in a while. How's that holding up? well, it holds up pretty darn well. So,
It's a good one.
yeah, it's an interesting album. I had not played it in years, to be honest, and holds up just fine. It always seemed to get a little bit of crap over time. A lot of people were disappointed that Van Druenen's not on the album. Although I thought, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Patrick Manelli. Yeah, Patrick Manelli. I thought he did a very, very good job on the vocals on the album. Is he as good a vocalist as Van Druenen? Okay, most people are going to say no. But he's still a very, very good vocalist. It's not like they went from a great vocalist to a crap one. They went from a really good vocalist to a also really good vocalist. The album it was showing more innovations and stuff. They're getting a little bit fancy, but they're still very much song-oriented death metal. And I think that's why I like this one and why it's held up well for me. Beyond this point, once you get to Spheres and stuff, they started going more and more down a path that I just have never quite been ready to follow. And it's not you, Pestilence, it's me. But with Testimony of the Ancients, they kind of get it just right. They're using the keyboards very tastefully. They've got, the little interludes, it's spacing things out. They've got the Lovecraftian lyrics before it was cool to do Lovecraftian lyrics and all of that. And yeah, the guitar work is exciting. The sound is very good on the album overall. So I get why some people aren't into it as much as the previous Pestilence albums, but I think this one still is a very good album. It's just a slightly different beast than what they had been, but it hasn't moved light years away from their former albums. So yeah, Testimony of the Ancients. I'll give that one a thumbs up, and it did come out in the 90s, so I can mention it all I want to tonight.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did have Consuming Impulse in my stack. So thanks.
There you go. I just saved you from the party foul, man.
Yep. Or you
I
say,
still haven't
Simon?
listened to Spheres. Spheres
It's
was one
good.
of those things that.
It's jazzy.
Well, I don't know why. It's just been removed from my thought process. I mean, people were telling me since day one, oh, man, this album's crap. And I think it just got embedded in my brain, so I didn't even bother checking it out, even now. But if you're saying it's good.
It's not the same. I like it. I don't love it. I would rather listen to Consuming or Testimony. And the first one, Malleus Maleficarum, is very thrashy. It's a good album, though. Another band that their first three albums all sound different from each other. It's quite amazing.
Good point. Yeah. Roger in the chat is saying the new Pestilence is really great and kind of moves back towards Testimony. So that's interesting. I've seen the album. I haven't. You can't buy everything. I haven't got around to it, but that makes me more interested. So thanks, Roger. That's good to know.
Few albums in the 2000s, like 4 or 5.
Yeah, they do. They have a deeper catalog than I realized. I didn't. I got to looking as I was like, oh, I haven't heard any of these. So yep. But yeah, if that newer one is sounding a bit like Testimony, then Roger, maybe that's where I need to start. Say, oh, what is Cindy up to now?
He might.
There's one way to find out, Cindy. Go to this URL and you can find out.
He'll even autograph them for you. Okay.
But I definitely have at least, there were no Sammy Hagar books because that ain't happening. That's not cool.
He's not down with the Red Rocker. Okay. This album is huge for me. Very influential to the early material of my band, The Glorious Dead. In fact, we got our name from the first song on this album.
I knew this was coming.
Yep. This is Gorefest False. Man, this album is absolutely amazing from start to finish. Super heavy. What the hell is the drummer's Ed Walmsby? I want to say
he's great on that.
Oh my God, what an amazing drummer! He went on after this to be in with Van Druenen in that war themed band. I can see the cover. I can't remember the name. Getting old sucks, people. Don't do it. But this album, holy shit, super. Their first album, Mind Loss, is also really good, but this is a lot more mature. The songs are more refined, catchy, but super hard hitting, brutal without losing sight of memorable songs and riffs and structures. The vocals are super low and crushing. Again, I've listened to this album probably 1 million times in my life, and I'll probably listen to it again next week. It's just so damn potent. They never, I should say they fell off they never returned is a lie, because their last album, Rise to Ruin, is very much in league with this album. It's also they went out on a great album. It's just like that same, they finally they got back to where they were awesome. But the album that came after this, Erase, is an absolute turd sandwich. It's so bad. They tried to go for the groove aspect like Entombed, but they did it in a really bad way, and their production was really thin. But this, fear not, this is absolutely great. Check it out. Melanie, write this on your list because you need this one. Gorefest.
You do. That is their best one. It's also the Gorefest where I can most tolerate the vocals. Like, his very unique sound in his vocals. And when it came to that Erase, I think Erase is let down the most by the fact the vocals are twice the volume. And it doesn't work with his style and that groove metal. It's actually kind of painful.
Yeah. But this, have you heard Rise to Ruin, their last album?
I haven't.
Dude, check it out. I'm not lying. You'll like it. It's crushing. No. It's a great record.
Yeah, False is one that I got back in the probably about 99 or 98, 99. Always gets oh no.
Have another drink and order. Put scratch off all the other ones on your list and buy this one first.
I got
good. There's always room for one more in the shopping cart.
That's right. There's always room for Gorefest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Gorefest. Good choice, Marty. That was a band. It was funny. My girlfriend back in college got into Gorefest a lot more than I did. That was one of her bands, as opposed to one of mine. I liked them, but she really got into them.
Okay,
great. It's me again. Okay. We're going to Norway.
That one's good too. Also, that one's also good. That was their comeback album. It was back on track, but they nailed it on the one after.
I'll check out some of those ones. I think the one I heard was even worse than Erase was Chapter 13 or something.
Yeah.
I think I heard that. It was just.
It's not good either. No.
Dumpster fire.
No.
But this is not. This is a Norwegian band that no one really talks about too much. I think they only did 2 albums, maybe 3, but this is Festa. This is Winter of Sin. Came out in 92. When I was trying to work out how to describe this one, because it's pretty unique, the best thing I could come up with was it sort of sounds like early Greek black metal, but played by Alf Svensson. And I reckon that kind of makes sense to me. It's Alf the Gates era playing that really primitive early black metal sound, but it is definitely death metal. It's the vocals are very pained, shrieking, bit like Dawn in some respects. There's a Modern Invasion triangle. It's been on there since the dawn of time. You cannot not get that off. Band photo, looking very black metal, very spooky. But no, it is death metal, definitely. Yeah, it's a pretty weird one, I think, mainly because of the vocals. It does make it kind of weird, and having that very primitive early Greek black metal sound, but played in a death metal style. It is an interesting one. Maybe it didn't work for everybody. They followed it up with an album. I think it was called Silence. I've got that too somewhere. And they refined it a bit more, and the vocalist took himself way back in the mix on that one, and he's almost silent. It's kind of like a joke, I guess, with the title. It's kind of whispered screams on that follow-up. But yeah, it's a really good one. I won't say it's a classic. It's probably not for everybody, but it's a solid album. And yeah, just to prove Marty right, this is my first copy, but I found a second copy, and I did find it in a charity store for $1. So, there you go. Festa, Winter of Sin.
You've got like a guardian collector angel on your shoulder. I live at the corner of the earth, and all this really killer shit. Oh, this eBay seller, I got a hold of a guy on Facebook Marketplace, and he gave me all this shit for $50, and it's all classic and mint. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think the funniest day was when I went into the St. Vincent de Paul. It's a charity, just, I think you guys would call them a thrift store.
Yep.
And their very religious backing. Damn straight. And I found in there somebody had dumped probably a 20-strong Christian death and thrash metal collection. There was a good half of Mortification's catalog in there.
You only need 2 of their albums, really.
Well, I ended up deciding to keep none of them. But it was interesting that I found all this in there. And then next to all of it was Deicide Legion. Just finding all of that. Those 2 mixed, and then also being in that kind of store. I just found it funny.
That'll never happen again. You hit it just at the right time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. All right, Alan.
Yep. Yeah, I've found some used piles of oddly mixed stuff like that before, Simon. I was at a flea market one time and found a bunch of Christian metal tapes. And there were a couple of very non-Christian metal tapes mixed in, but they were bands that had sort of biblical names. For example, they had a Sodom tape. And you can very much imagine this person's song is like, oh, Sodom, that's from the Bible. This must be another Christian band. And I can only imagine the look on their face when they took it home and played it, just like, this isn't about Jesus. And they whisked it away to the flea market the next weekend and bought it.
What if they bought a Gomorrah CD as well?
I can't remember what all they had. Yeah, but yeah, it was a very funny mix. It was very clear that all these, whoever bought them, thought they were all going to be Christian metal based on the band names. But let's see. Next up, let's go with another classic band. This is my favorite album by Edge of Sanity. It's Purgatory Afterglow. Now, I think most folks pick other albums as their favorite, which is fine. But
that one's great too, though.
This is always the one I go back and play the most by far. If
Black Tears, baby, Black Tears, fucking rules.
Yes, Black Tears, Twilight, great, Blood Colored. Everything on here is just very catchy. The songs they stand out well. They're unique from one another. It's just a well put together album, start to finish. If I just want that quick fix of Edge of Sanity, I will always reach for this one. I've got to really be in the Edge of Sanity mood to start digging through the rest of the catalog. Other albums are good too. There's nothing wrong with them.
What about Crimson? Crimson doesn't hang with you?
Crimson. That's the 48-minute song album. Yeah. It's good. I'm just very rarely in the mood where I want to sit and listen to one song for 48 minutes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
The Fates Warning, Pleasant Shade of Grey is very much kind of the same way. The music's good. I just don't want to. That's not the kind of listening experience I'm looking for a lot of the time. But there's nothing against it. Funnily enough, Crimson, the same girlfriend that was into Gorefest, that was the Edge of Sanity album she latched onto. I was all about Purgatory Afterglow, and she loved the Crimson album. That was sort of her big, study, for cramming overnight for an exam kind of music was just play Crimson on repeat for a while there. But yeah, Edge of Sanity obviously has a very good catalog. This is just my personal favorite. It's also one I don't feel gets mentioned as much as some of the earlier albums, so I'm always happy to give this one a shout out.
That album was kind of hard to get in the States.
Yeah, Black Mark stuff could be a bit of a pain sometimes to find back then.
That's shocking. Can't find any Black Mark now.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. Unorthodox was my first on a tape. I wore that thing out, and Spectral Sorrows. Of course, Nothing But Death Remains is good, but it's pretty primitive compared to where they went.
Yeah,
good shit. Okay, I'm out of Finland. This is a great, very rarely mentioned band from France. This is their debut album, Abject Offerings by Merciless.
Oh,
yeah, awesome.
1992. What a year for death metal! And this thing is a scorcher. There's a song on here, "Substance of Purity." My favorite song on this album. Absolutely great, dark. I mean, these guys could have rolled with early Gorguts, kind of in the considered dead feel, but a little bit more melodic, I would say at times. But they have that same kind of dark early death metal darkness on here. But Substance of Purity, check that song out if you're going to inspect this album, because it's a banger, and this whole album is absolutely great. The one after it, Colored Funeral, is also really good. They got a little bit more technical. Then after that, they kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. I don't have the one that came after it because it was not very good. But absolute
Yeah,
great French death metal. It sounds like, well, I would say it sounds American because that first Gorguts album sounds very American to me. But obviously they're from Canada, so people don't jump me in the chat. But Abject Offerings, Merciless, amazing album.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Absolutely, Marty. Yeah, to me, it always sounded, and maybe you can agree or disagree. To me, it reminded me a little bit of early Asphyx, but faster, not as slow as Asphyx on, say, the Rack.
Yeah, I could take that. Great album, and yeah, the one after it, like you're saying, is just as good. Really good band.
All right, you are up, Simon.
Oh, well, I was gonna show another Sweden, but seeing as we went France, I'll do that as well. Massacre, Final Holocaust.
Oh, yeah.
I don't own any of their stuff. Zero Massacre.
Their first two are really good. This is from 1990, so it's just allowed. And so because it's 1990, it's still very thrashy, but it's I'd say 75% death metal, 25% thrash. It's got a lot of, I'd say, Blessed Are the Sick, Morbid Angel vibes to it. Yeah, this is an absolute cracker. It doesn't sound Euro. It does sound kind of American to me. So I'll take it out of the thing. Great artwork on it. Like on a...
Mm-hmm.
What's he on there? I don't know, horse that's hit the deck or something. Got his lightning sword. It's kind of Manowarish, I suppose. There's the band being very Morbid Angel. The blue denim.
Sans cod piece.
Wait, a French man of war. How does that work out? Hail and surrender?
There's a squeaky looking guy.
They're really into their cheesy metal, if you know what I mean.
Boy,
there we go.
Like Cameron Barrett. Massacre. The second album, the name is escaping me at the moment, but it is just as good and less thrashy. So check them out. Good band.
All right, Alan.
All right. Did somebody say French death metal?
Yeah,
let's stay in France for a moment then. This is a weird one I never hear anybody mention, but I always liked the band. It's a group called Corellia. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right.
Never even fucking heard of it.
It's probably a bootleg. It's not that it's reflecting. It's just showing up or crappy. It's probably a bad boot copy. I've never been able to complain.
It looks like that case has been slid down the road a couple times.
The case is a bit beat up. Tell you what, let's slide this one out of the case and maybe. There's really not much to see. There's some purple clouds on a black background. So I mean, even if it's an original, there's just not much to see. And of course, it's stuck in the jewel case. Here we go. French band. Let's see. There's a little bit of purple there, and a logo, and
there's not much going on.
There's not a whole lot going on. It was on the Adipashare label, which never had good distribution in the US.
Yeah.
I don't even. Well, actually, I do know how I've heard about this. This was a result of an old tape trade where somebody had like about 25 minutes left on the end of one of the tapes they were doing for me, and they just put this on randomly. I was just like, yo, hey, check this out. It's pretty cool. And I had never heard. I was just like, what the heck is it? But I played it and was just like, this is really cool. It's kind of it's more of a progressive death metal style. It's, it's death metal in terms of some of the structures and the vocal style, but overall, the music is definitely leaning in the proggy direction. Not super technical, maybe a little akin to earlier Dream Theater type stuff, where it was still more song oriented, more sort of building up, with these big sort of expansive structures. But really interesting stuff. It's only 4 tracks. It was really just a demo that got put out on CD. But yeah, pretty neat and unique stuff. The band promptly went on hold for something like let's get the years right here. So yeah, the demo came out in 95. I think the CD pressing was in 96. And it only took them until 2009 to finally get an album out. So 13 years. They worked on it for a while, but they did make a full album later on. That's actually a very long, convoluted sci-fi concept album, which is actually, and it's actually very, very cool. I do have it. They released some material under the name Chrysalis, which is not a good name for any kind of heavy metal band. But there's at least one EP of material with a lot of the members released as Chrysalis, and it is operating in kind of a similar style to this, but a little more mature and rounded out. But yeah, Calicia. If you like sort of progressive leaning death metal that's not overly techy, check it out. I don't know if this ever got reissued or if it's easier to find. And like I said, I suspect this is either a bootleg or it's just an incredibly poorly printed CD, which Adipochere and quality control weren't necessarily synonymous with each other. So maybe it is an original, but this one, I would never have heard of this band if it wasn't for those 20 minutes of blank space that somebody filled in with the Calicia EP back in the tape trading days. Cool stuff.
The best part about that whole thing when you mentioned Dream Theater, watching Simon throw up in his mouth a little bit.
Yeah, and again, they do not sound like Dream Theater. I'm just trying to think of something to compare them to. They're not progressive in the sense of like Spheres from Pestilence, or they don't have the jazzy kind of components of Atheists later stuff or anything. It's really kind of hard to compare to other stuff. It's just that, yeah, it's got a little bit of a cleaner style of building the songs is about the only way I can think to phrase it, which is a shortcoming on my part. But yeah, it's worth a listen if you want to hear something a little different. And like I said, the album they did later is very interesting too. But it's a deeper conceptual. That one is getting closer to more typical techie prog death metal stuff, and has vocals that are more like Cynic.
Scott Metal 666 asks, "Is it prog like Yes?"
I don't know enough about Yes, so I want to say no.
Okay. And Simon.
Me again?
No, me.
It's you again.
Sorry. Okay. Mine is unfortunately an OG pressing that got water damage from a broken toilet incident of 20.
Oh, this hurts to hear.
18. Oh my God. This is a favorite Swedish release of mine. Evil Swedish death metal in the form of The Nocturnal Silence by Necrophobic. Awesome. This is an absolute gem of an album. There's something special about David Parlin, Black Moon. His guitar riffs were just simple but really cool and dark, very dark riffs. This is just a band. They start off on fire. I mean, most of their catalog is great, but this album is exceptional. I don't know really much more to say about other than it's evil death metal. It's not, there's a lot, the Entomb sound and the Dismember sound. This is not it. It's more of a sophisticated, smooth sound with some very dark melodies woven into the songs. Excellent vocals. Great, dark, evil death metal album. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, that's a solid one. I always have a soft spot for that album because back in the mid-90s, about the time it came out, like the night before I was having to go out and do like 6 weeks of, field work, mapping geology stuff out west, we stopped by the record store. We could only obviously take a certain amount of stuff, so we just, grabbed a handful of cassettes, and I bought that at the store that day. And so we ended up playing the hell out of it for like 6 weeks straight because we only had like a handful of tapes with us. So there was a whole lot of Necrophobic played out there doing our mapping projects.
Great stuff. All right.
Okay.
Now you're on.
Now I'm up. All right. So we're going to the other end of the decade now. This one, I don't remember why I bought it. I remember how. I bought this album. I bought Bloodthorn's debut, which wasn't very good, and Ocean's Dynamic Gallery of Thoughts, which is a cracker. So they were all Season of Mist albums. And this one, Anata, Eternal Depths of Hatred. This was absolutely crushing when I got this. I had not heard anything like it. It's technical death metal without being tech death, and I hope you know what I mean when I say that. It's not stupid twiddly click track death metal. It is still death metal. It's just more technical than other bands. I really, like I said, I hadn't heard anything much like this before. 1998 digibook thing. Somehow it survived time, not been destroyed. Stands out as being pretty unique. The most, I guess, the stuff that sounds kind of similar came later, like Psychroptic's debut, maybe Spawn of Possession's Cabinet album, kinda in the realms of this thing. But they're a fantastic band. They did 3 more albums in the 2000s, and then they seem to have, I don't know, gone back to bed or something. But this is a really, really strong technical death metal album that stays in the death metal more than getting all showy off with guitar solos and things. Really good stuff. And just to cost her more money, this is the kind of thing I would recommend to Melanie. Go get this Anata album because I think it absolutely bangs.
Sorry,
Alan.
Alan.
All right, let's go with now. There's a Finnish death metal band with the same name, but we're not going to Finland this time. We're going to Sweden for Sweden's version of Carnage and Dark Recollections. I wish I had a real copy of this. It's gotten kind of pricey, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on a copy. But this band, of course, is kind of more famous for where the members went afterwards. Of course, Michael Amott, would take his second opportunity to join Carcass, and other guys would end up with Dismember and such. But the Carnage album is really, really good. It's one I replayed this week for the first time in a while. And I was reminded just how strong it is among those early, Swedish death metal albums. The band fell apart so fast. They just got the one album out, and then they were gone. But they were a big part of that. They were one of the first bands to release an album. I think Entombed and thanks, Simon.
They split it with Cadaver, which was an interesting way of doing it.
Yep.
I've got an OG pressing of it standalone as well.
This is Necrosis.
Yeah, mine is.
Sorry, Alan.
I think Simon's Simon's wins once again, but it's very, very good in that early Swedish style. Something about them, it's right up there with this Ever Flowing Stream and Left Hand Path. It just doesn't get mentioned as much because the band doesn't have that legacy like those other bands did. They just didn't last quite long enough. Album that's badly in need of a nice reissue from somebody who will put the time and effort into making a nice package for it. That's another one that needs to be back out there. It's a really, really strong album if you like that early Swedish death metal sound. Really tight album. And when you look at the lineup, it's obvious why. There's a lot of talented guys in that band.
Yep. Just
didn't stick around. If they had, they'd be mentioned, right there with all the other big names. I think they were one of the first bands to get an album out from Sunlight Studios too. Obviously, Entombed did first, and maybe Tiamat. I want to say it was
pretty early too.
Yeah, but Carnage might have been the third one.
Pretty early.
Yeah, if by chance anybody has overlooked it, definitely circle back to that one. It is really, really good.
Yeah. Okay,
your turn, Marty.
This is a band that isn't rare or hard to find at all, but this is my favorite album by them. Dark Throne, Soulside Journey.
Oh yeah.
Not gonna lie, I really loved. I loved the black metal era, but I wanted more of this. When this came out, I got this when it came out. I love this record. It's great death metal. Obviously, a little bit of a Swedish influence here and there, but mostly, my case is all fucked up too. But they had kind of a dark, weird feel on this record, and I really liked it. I thought, and the lyrics are really interesting. Fenris had moments where he was a great lyricist, and this album just checked all the boxes for me. It was brutal. It was melodic. It was dark. It was a little twisted here and there. There's an Autopsy influence on some of this stuff, which I can appreciate. Not the super sick, but just some of the slower parts had that autopsy feel to it, to me anyway. But
Mm.
yeah, man, I wanted 2 or 3 more albums of this. And when Blaze in the Northern Sky came out, I bought that on tape. I'm like, what the fuck happened to this band? Holy shit. You want to talk about falling off the rails? But, you know, coming back to it, I saw what was going on after, you know, being pissed off initially. And I get it. But man, it would have been cool to have a proper follow-up to this. And I don't think Goat Lord was going to be the proper follow-up to this. I like Goat Lord. It would have been interesting hearing that polished and with the right vocals on it. But
Rough
right.
one,
you're right, Ryan. It's a very dynamic album. But yeah, great album. My favorite Dark Throne. Absolutely killer. One and done for them.
Nice pick. That was a hard one to get for a long time too. Even, you know, after they started getting popular, I remember I ended up getting like a South American bootleg of that had like a live show tacked onto the end to fill out the length of the disc, because it was the only version you could find. That there was not a good reissue. You know, back in the late 90s when Dark Throne was very, very popular. That album, at least locally, no one ever had a pressing of it. So eBay bootleg it was. I knew what I was getting, and I had no problem with it.
Hey, everybody, look, we haven't killed Melanie yet. I'm glad to see you're hanging with us, Melanie. How long is your list?
The shopping cart has not exploded yet.
All right, Simon, you're up.
All right. Well, this one might kill Melanie because it's mandatory and it's incredibly hard to get. This is Cemetery, Evil Shade.
Oh,
of
you
Grey.
bastard. Next one on my pile.
Yep.
Bastard.
Number 2.
Well, that's 3 copies that exist then.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Swedish band from 92. This came out. The guitar tone on this is
killer.
otherworldly.
It's so creepy.
It is, yeah, creepy. There's
a song that the evil shade of gray. You can hear like the pick noise, the way he's like picking those tremolo. I don't know if he's like has the pick right over the pickup. I don't know. It's really bizarre. I've never heard it before ever on an album.
It's the opening track on this one for me, Dead Red.
Yeah.
It just kicks in straight away, and it's just this, you can't discern the notes. It's just this slimy thing, and then like these ghosty keyboards that go over the top of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
And then it only comes in really slow with very minimal drums, and then it just loses it and goes into blasts, and then it goes into keyboards. It's all over the shop. And you can't get this thing for love or money because it's a black mark.
Yep.
And I'm not too sure what the story is with that, but unless it's a Bathory reissue, you're not getting black mark stuff.
Black marks. This has never been reissued, as far as I know.
I don't think so. If you find a copy that looks like it's cheap, it's a Russian bootleg.
Yep.
So you've got to be very careful with this one. But it is worth your time and definitely your money. You've got the Geiger art on the back there. I don't even remember how I got this one. I got it 20 years ago or so, but yeah, I know I'm lucky to have it because it is phenomenal album. Absolutely amazing. I don't know what else to say about it. I can tell you that everything after this is garbage. Within 1 year, the band became
I wouldn't say it's garbage. Not garbage.
I think we're losing something in translation between Australian and English.
Oh,
right
come
now.
on. Have you look at the cover of that Godless Beauty album? My
You mean this Godless Beauty album?
That's the thrashy record. Every single album is different. It's like sentenced. Their first 4 albums are all different from each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. That one is definitely like the heavy. You know, that's the epitome of their.
Yeah, that's the one that is for me. I mean, I didn't realize that they were going until 2005. They just kept making albums, but yeah, Evil Shade of Grey is all I need.
Mm-hmm.
Another more love for Godless Beauty. Right on. It's a great record. It's not what I expected, but it's a good record.
Yeah. It's still deathy. It's starting to move a little bit more in some of those gothic directions that they headed later on. But and this was a band that I thought did the gothic metal style quite well. I like Pleasant Shade of Grey a ton, but I like those albums like Black Vanity and stuff. Cemetery I thought was much, much better at that style than Sentenced or Catatonia were. But yeah, very cool band. I like most of their catalog, but it's also not going to be for everybody, so that's okay too.
Yeah.
As long as you know what you're getting there, Melanie. $17.
Well, it's going to cost $75 to ship it, so I mean, it better be a real one.
It's from China. What could possibly be wrong with that?
All right. Who's next? Me. Well, people mentioned them in the chat, and they got to be given love because this is probably one of the sickest death metal albums ever. Been Caught Buttering, Pungent Stench. Man, I had the tape of this, and I spun that thing into oblivion. I love it so much. Sloppy as hell. Super sick guitar tone. Lyrical concepts are just fucking disgusting. These guys are the sickest, most perverse death metal albums back in the 90s. 91, this thing came out. These guys are Austrian. Yes.
Austrian,
Awesome. Classic. What an iconic cover. I thought it were twins, but no, it's the guy's head cut in half and the artist position, the two halves kissing themselves. And Been Caught Buttering is a slang for masturbation. So very, very interesting. And it kind of lets you know what's going to happen with this album, but super sick and twisted. It's all I can say. But and the drums aren't the best, probably the weakest link to this album, but somehow it makes it even better. It adds that sloppy feel to it. Great sick death metal. These guys got a little strange and kind of fell off the wagon a little bit for me as they went on, but their first two are really great.
I saw them play live in Sydney. I want to say like 2004 or so. I'm not even sure why they came out. I don't think they did it before. Maybe they probably did it in the early days in the 90s, but they came out for a show, and it was fun. I wasn't that familiar with the material besides Being Caught Buttering. And they covered La Bamba, which was the funniest thing you've seen live.
Yeah.
Like they dropped the death vocals and just cracked into La 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 Bamba. It was strange.
Yep.
They were having fun.
All right.
Me again. Okay. We're going to leave the Swedens and the Finlands and the Norways for a moment.
I'm coming back, I think.
Oh, no, look, the rest of this is basically is, but we're going to go to Slovakia, 1996. This is very, very underrated album. Apoplexy, Tears of the Unborn. I think I just saw this on eBay one day back in the sort of mid 2000s and thought, oh, that looks pretty interesting. I'll grab that. And it's fantastic. It's sort of like, I don't know, it sounds like brutality with some weird intestine barlisms going on. It's a strange kind of thing. Very unique sound. The guitar leads and the solos is really what stands out on this one. Very, very creative leads. It's got 3 instrumentals on it. It's very weird riffs. The vocals are kind of got like a processed sound to them. I'm not sure what they've done. They feel like they've gone through a filter. The Crypt reissued this in 2019, but this is the original one on Station Master, which you can see. Logo's a little train. I thought that was neat.
Oh, it's so cute. Then you look at the cover, it's like raw.
Yeah, and look at these guys. This guy's gonna bench press you, I think. Yeah. But this is great band. They've done at least one other. I'm not too sure if they're still around, but really, really interesting. You can get the Crypt reissue on LP and CD. Came out 2019. I think that's easy to get, but this one's the $300 or $400 CD. When I ordered my Discog stuff, this was at the top. I don't know why. It just is. But yeah, good one. Apoplexy, Tears of the Unborn, Slovakia.
Huh. Cool. All right.
All right. This one will go over to where is it? Netherlands, I think. Let me double check that before I blurt it out here. Netherlands. God Dethroned. Grimoire. This was kind of a fun one. This is a little later in the decade, around 97. And this was one of several albums that got picked up by Metal Blade for distribution. I don't know if they were on Metal Blade, or I think they were just getting distributed by Metal Blade. So this was something that was actually pretty easy to find in the US. The first Ammon Amarth album, and there were one or two others that kind of came out, the Everdawn, Poems Burn the Past, I think was the third one, that all kind of Metal Blade licensed and put out around the same time. And yeah, this album always liked it. It's a very pummeling album, but also very melodic at the same time. It's got almost at times sort of a bolt thrower like crushing pace to it, but always lots of hooks in it, and a lot of the songs stand out really good. The intro riff to Somberness of Winter is just devastatingly fast, heavy, very precise, really, really good. They have some of the other songs like Under a Silver Moon was a little slower, if I remember right. The title track is excellent. The vocals are very venomous, really kind of spat out at you. It's a very tight album, very high energy. I always liked it quite a bit. It's not one I play a ton anymore, but it's still a very, very good album. And it's been around for a long time. Looks like they've put out about 11 albums, which
I think they're still going.
They're listed as active over at the mothership. But
yeah. Bloody Blasphemy. Someone mentioned their Bloody Blasphemy, the one with the blue cover. That's the one.
That was the next one after Grand Grimoire, yeah. And by then their albums got hard to find because I got this one. I was like, ooh, that's really good, and was kind of like waiting to check out the follow up, and it didn't get the same kind of distribution. It wasn't around on the shelves, and by the time I tracked it down, I don't know. I sort of lost a little interest. It was one of those it became too annoying to find. So by the time you got it, you were just kind of like, fine, what the fuck ever. I wanted this 2 years ago. So yeah, I always had a little more trouble getting into Bloody Blasphemy. I've heard songs here and there from the rest of the catalog. I think it seems like they've stayed pretty consistent. But yeah, Grand Grimoires, it's not their first album, but it's definitely the album that always stuck with me.
Yeah, good album.
All right. Well, since Simon brought up Slovakia, I guess now is a good time to bring this band up. These are a little late in the game. This is 98 and 99 by Slovakia's Depressy.
Oh, I need those back in my collection.
These albums are pretty crushing, really brutal, but they've got a smattering of keyboards in there. Really dark, well-produced, super sick, deep vocals. This is an EP. Really well written, really well produced. Looks like a black metal album.
Heavy as balls.
It's super heavy. Both of these are heavy as balls. This was sent as a promo back in the Worm Gear days. See the cutout, folded tray card, which is a bummer. But
it sucks.
God, these are. In fact, I pulled this out and listened to it today as getting ready for this because I remember spending a lot of time with these in the 90s, and very good stuff. Like I said, the keyboards are a nice touch. When it gets to like deep death metal, it's not a widespread inclusion, but having a little bit of evil synth on some of the stuff is a nice touch. Very good band, very heavy.
Yeah, I had that EP. It's like an EP and then a demo or something, isn't it? It's like a
there's a demo on here too. And there came the Tears with Christ.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that's a song.
Right.
It's a demo. Yeah, it looks like demo shit on the end. A bunch of tracks.
Yeah, because the EP itself is only very short, so I guess they've had it. I had it. I don't
4
remember
songs.
seeing it, so I think I lent it to someone and never got it back. And I never got the album, so I need to. I've been trying to find it, but there's been no local copies. But I want both of them. Absolutely.
Good stuff. All right, Simon.
All right. I'm going to do a tricky. It's 2-album reissue, and it also fulfills 2 things. One, I can do Slovakia again, and then segue us back to Sweden, which I know we're going to end up in anyway.
Yeah.
So this is if you believe one of the bands, they say it's unauthorized, but this is a Repulse and Blackened reissue of Dementor.
Kill the Thought on Christ? No.
Yeah. No, The Art of Blasphemy is that one.
Oh, okay.
The Art of Blasphemy and Het Sheds or Het Sheeds. I think it's Het Sheds. With what's this thing called? We Hail the Possessed. So completely unrelated bands, and the Black and Repulse have done this reissue thing early 2000s, probably.
Very strange.
It's a strange mix, but
yeah,
they're individual CDs, and God, they're ugly as that horrid font thing. They're just, I don't know what they were thinking, but so Dementors from Slovakia. This one came out in 99. It's furious, blasty, satanic, very blasphemous death metal. The drums sound kind of artificial on it. The archives, the Oracle says it's a real drummer, but you could tell me it's a machine, I'd believe you. It's like Deicide, then Hate Eternal, Chrysian. It's in that kind of ballpark. It's really good, but it's I guess you could say it's kind of tiresome, tiring, because it is just such an onslaught the whole time. You've got to be in the mood for that. The real standouts, the Het Sheds. That's a 1994 Stockholm band. It got reissued in like 95 or 6 as an album with that cover, but it is actually just a couple of demos. They never did a proper studio album. It's just demos thrown together. It's crushing, absolutely crushing dark sound on that one. And also, I guess the combination here is that everything here is just evil and blasphemous. The lyrics on Het Sheds, I think one of the songs, the lyrics was just, fuck your church, fuck your lies, fuck your God, fuck your Bible. I mean, happy Easter.
Wait, do you have Easter in Australia?
No, the Easter bunny has to hop backwards. That's the only difference.
Should I just learn today that it's fall in Australia? You know, that's how dumb I am.
Does he counterclockwise or clockwise around?
I thought it was a flat Earth. I didn't realize that happened like that.
We flush the toilets; they go backwards as well.
What?
But yeah, both good albums, but yeah, united by their blasphemy, I suppose, is why they're on one CD. But yeah, the Het Sheds band, they say it's unauthorized, so there you go.
Well, no one else is putting out their shit, so might as well someone do it, right?
Yep.
All right, Alan.
All right. Well, yep. Simon's right. We got to swing back through Sweden, of course. And we'll make a stop with Gothenburg. Early Dark Tranquillities, Heartbeat. Really good stuff.
Great album.
This is not my favorite by them, but it's an album that I haven't mentioned in a while, so I wanted to shout out the gallery. It's very much, Dark Tranquility, at their peak, though. Even though I like Mind's Eye a little bit better, this one checks all the boxes. Amazing guitar work throughout, really just, loads of catchiness, hooks aplenty. Them and In Flames, of course, are the two big bands that did this style of stuff. And, for a little while, both bands were just absolutely fantastic. And then both bands weren't. They kind of lost their edge, lost their unique sound over time. With Dark Tranquility, they got on Century Media, and I've heard people describe it as they became kind of the stock Century Media band. Here's some random photoshopped artwork. Here's a very dull way to print your name. Here's some songs that they're not bad, but those albums become really interchangeable really fast once you get past the Mind's Eye. It's just like, well, this one sounds exactly like the last one did, and the last one was okay, but they really lost that unique quality, which is a shame, because
they kind of fell into a very modern spirit of that whole thing, and the artwork kind of reflected it for sure.
Yeah, it did. But any of this stuff, the EPs they did around this time too, equally as good as the albums.
Yeah.
So it's obviously its own little niche within European death metal, the whole Gothenburg sound. It's a sound I like a lot, but I will admit it's not something I want to hear often. And when I do want to hear it, it's like, okay, I want to play a couple of Dark Tranquility albums and I'm good for a while. It's not something that's going to live in the CD player for weeks on end. I get my fill, I enjoy it, and then I move on to other things.
I think the track on the One Brooding Warning is like the best thing that band ever made. It is a stellar song.
Good choice. Yep. Excellent call, Simon. That's a really good track. All right, Marty, what you got next?
I'm swinging it back to Austria. You can't really mention Pungent Stench without mentioning this band. They shared a split early on. This is Disharmonic Orchestra. Not to be unidimensionally conscious, I believe I can't read it. Yeah. Not to be unidimensional conscious. Not to be unidimensional conscious. I don't know. Anyway, this album fucking rules. It's
Yep.
There's little chunk in a song. Bring the beat back. Do 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 do. Lame. But this album, the guitars are so thick and they have like a warm, super warm tone. And the video release for this was the song Groove, which isn't, I would love to cover that song. It's just heavy, really emotive, and just a smooth flowing song. God, I love this band. The early stuff is the album that came before this, a little more grindish, a lot more chaotic and strange. Very cool though. But this to me, they kind of ironed out their songwriting a bit. They focused a little bit more on song structures you can wrap your head around, and that warm tone of guitar sound is just very welcoming, very comforting in a way. This is a great album. Very unique band. They didn't really sound like anybody, which is very cool. And they were buds with the guys in Deceased, of course, so you got the Deceased hat down there on that little bear. But awesome band, great album. If you haven't heard this, check it out. It's a little bit different than what you may be used to, and obviously the cover art kind of depicts that. Not really a one that would come across and say, "Oh, I'm going to check that out," because nothing about this really says "buy me." But what a great album!
Yeah. They were one of those. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Simon.
Nice to say that they are very odd. The one I've got was Exposition Prophylax, I think it's called.
Yep.
Which is kind of like early Carcass, and then also not.
It was the one that came before this one. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's good, but they started to get weird pretty quick. No pandas on that one, though, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, they were one of those bands you saw on tons of those compilations. There was always a disharmonic orchestra track on a lot of those that I had.
This is a true statement. You say death metal 3 times in a row, Ken will appear. He's like Beetlejuice. He's like the Chicago Beetlejuice. Cheers, brother.
Good to see you in the chat tonight, Ken.
Good to see you, Ken. All right, Alan.
All right. Let's do this one next. We'll stick with the Swedish stuff. One of the bigger bands we haven't mentioned yet, Unleashed. And I don't have any of my Unleashed CDs anymore, but one I picked for tonight was Shadows in the Deep, which I believe was their second. Unleashed was one of those bands that made consistently good albums. I always had kind of trouble, though, picking like a favorite. This is the first one I got, so this is what I decided I'd show off. Obviously, Headland had come out of Nihilist, and so kind of split and did his own thing. Unleashed always had a pretty good niche within those early big name Swedish bands. First, and very importantly, they had the coolest logo out of any of them. Always loved the way they came up with the Unleashed thing. They also had just a little bit more of kind of a stripped down approach, a little more straightforward, more simplified, but still quite heavy. It still fit in with, what Entomb, Dismembered, and other bands were doing. A funny thing with Shadows in the Deep, this was something that I found and bought on CD at Best Buy. So yes, gather round, children, and Grandpa will tell you of the days when Best Buy not only sold CDs, you could buy Unleashed CDs right off the shelf. You did not have to go to the indie store and pay import prices. You went in there and they had Therion and Tiamat and Unleashed sitting there next to the Christina Aguilera CDs. It never made any sense to me, but yeah, Best Buy, when they started really expanding as a chain in the 90s, they developed a very loyal following among music fans because they would stock all kinds of weird albums by labels and distributors that no other chain was really carrying. You didn't find these unless you went to indie stores or Best Buy. So yeah, I spent a lot of money in college at Best Buy buying stuff like Unleashed and checking it out. So cool band. I'm not making any claims that, Shadows in the Deep was, their best album. But again, it's kind of a sentimental favorite since it was the first one I was able to get my hands on. Where do you guys stand on Unleashed?
First album's the only one.
First three albums. Yeah.
Simon, I wanted the first one so badly. That was the one I always wanted, Where No Life Dwells, I think it was. And that was, I never, ever could find that bloody thing. I found across the, across the ocean, across something.
Across the open sea.
Open sea. Yeah. That one, the fourth one, the first one always eluded me. And that was very much a case, 5-6 years later, I got it in a CDR trade, and by that point, it had just burned itself out. I just
Alan, you're in luck.
It.
I've got a spare copy. I'll send it to you.
Oh, okay. I mean, it was neat to by the time I finally heard it, it was just like it took too long. The timing was all wrong by then.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool band. Like I said, I never felt like they did the one big album. They never had their left hand path moment or their like an ever flowing stream moment, but they had a good string of quality albums.
Did. And some of their later albums too, like Hammer Battalion is a really good album, and they've got some stuff. There's a middle period that was Johnny was singing more hardcore shouting style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know they kind of they definitely fell off my radar, but yeah, when I would check in, the reviews were not favorable on some of those albums in the middle. I'm trying to remember. I know I got Victory. I had Victory, and I liked Victory. It was still pretty good. It was, again, a little more stripped down again, but was not bad. I think after that is somewhere after that is where I kind of lost track of the band for a long time. But anyway, yeah, definitely got to mention Unleashed among the big sort of titans of Swedish death.
All right,
Marty, who shall you mention next?
Going back to the... Oh, I missed you. Shit. There you go.
Yeah, we're getting all mixed up.
What the fuck happened?
As punishment, I'm going to show you 2 albums.
Go right ahead.
Do it.
There's kind of a relation, so it makes sense. So, yes, Alan, you're right that Gothenburg bands, you only need a little bit, and then you're kind of done. There was a period though, 96, 97, when there was a few of them, and some of them did really good debuts that I think aren't talked about as much, but they're still worth your time. This one came out in 97. This is Gardinian.
Yeah.
2 Feet Stand, and it's like just different songs from In Flames Horacle. It may as well be. It could easily be the direct successor to that album. Before In Flames went shit. It's the whole package, like the vocals, the music. It's even got the those background spoken vocals that they did in In Flames, like in between, like to slow it down. It's got all of that, the whole package. It is an In Flames clone for the good period.
Yep.
So it's definitely worth your time. It's the band.
Yep. Yeah, I had not thought of this band in a long time, but yeah, you're exactly right in your description. Yep.
On Listenable Records. Not sure. One of my barcodes blacked out. Maybe it was a
promo
test one or something. But the other one I want to show is similar. This is from 96. It's a little bit more black, and this is Gates of Ishtar. Blood Red Path. Yeah. I'm not sure if this was Gothenburg or whatever, but they're in that kind of style. Melodic death metal. It's a bit more to the Dark Tranquility Sky Dancer. A little bit blackish, a little bit more less polish. There's less polish on this one. Very fast sound, really peppery drums. I love the drums on this one. There's an album after it with a horrible green cover. I can't remember the name of that thing. It's not so great, but this debut, it's on Spine Farm. It's a Swedish band on a Finnish label. Also good. So there you go. There's my 2 melodic Swedish death metal albums.
So since I fucked up the order, is it my turn now?
Yes. I think,
yes.
All right.
Now we should get to you.
Okay, we're going back to the Netherlands and Pentacle.
There you go. Somebody was asking for that in the chat.
There's some people talking about it earlier in the chat. This band is a long-running band. They still crush. I just got their latest on tape here last year. I guess they're great. I don't know how you say his name. Is it Wayne's Gubbles or is it Vanis Gubbles? I have no idea. He did some time in the band Asphyx, filling in. Or wait, was he in Soulburn? No. I don't know. They used an Asphyx for a while, I believe. Absolutely great. Death metal, and it says on here, don't forget the ancient feeling. It still rules, and it does. And these guys are 100% in that vein. Really mid-pace to quicker pace. Death metal, really super catchy. This is the 5th season and the 5th moon, and Rides the Moonstorm. Super catchy. If you like that middle era Pestilence, you like that middle era or the Asphyx, right up your alley. Super sick and heavy, awesome death metal from the Netherlands.
Awesome.
You're back, Simon. We're gonna write this ship right now.
You write the ship. Okay. Did somebody say the 5th season?
Yeah, sacrilege. Yeah,
Sacrilege. I'm just wondering if I wrote any notes on this. Hang on.
that's really good stuff. I mean, the whole Gothenburg thing was amazing, but man, it blew up to the point. There was like the Everdawn, that Poems Burn the Past sounded just like At the Gates.
Yeah.
They weren't real original, but man, it was all really solid. You know.
I didn't write any notes on this one, but you're right. It just fits in with all the other bands. This has got some really standout actual tracks, though. Moaning Idiot Heart is like a very In Flamesy kind of song.
Yep.
But the opening one, Walk Through the Fire, is just a cracking intro song. Very much, just Dark Tranquility, Skydance of the Gallery. That's what you're getting here. And a little bit of In Flames, sort of subterranean kind of era In Flames. I think sort of Sacrilege. But that's about all I need to say on it. Really good. Black Sun Records, 1997.
Good shit.
Subterranean, very overlooked in the In Flames catalog. Even though it's just an EP, it just rips.
Yep.
All right, Alan.
All right, Simon. I think Simon mentioned this one in passing earlier. So, did someone say German death metal?
Hey.
Let's do some Pyogenesis.
Oh,
I love this album.
shit.
This was another one that was on some of the compilations. Had to go out and check it out. And early Pyogenesis is very fun. It's pretty simple. It's very, very catchy. I get why some people might not like it. That it can also be a little goofy sounding, not like disharmonic orchestra goofy or anything, but just a little, maybe slightly silly at times. But man, is it a fun listen? Very, very energetic. Very catchy stuff. Just fun songs. You get some goofy lyrics and stuff, which you're going to expect on an album called Sweet X-Rated Nothings. It's also another band that the first 3 albums are all very, very different from one another, and in this case, it's not necessarily a good thing. Tornado Blood is different. I'm going to leave it at that because I haven't heard it in a very long time. But then you get to the 3rd album, Unpop, and it's this band has completely left the middle orbit. It's universally panned as just one of those "what the hell is this" kind of moments from a band.
Yep.
This is another one that while I love this band. The College Girlfriend, this was her favorite album. She played this thing nonstop. When Unpop came out, somehow Twin Ale Blood got just no distribution. We saw no reviews on it. So we actually missed that album when it came out. And then when Unpop was getting released, I pre-ordered it for her, like as soon as it came out. Neither of us knew what it sounded like, so got it. She was so excited, just like, "Oh my god!" We put it in play, and we just both sat there and looked, just like,
"Yep."
It was like looking at the CD. It's like, is this a band called Unpop and their album is Pyogenesis?
Yeah,
you get the wrong band. Makes no sense at all. So, but this is still very, very fun listen. It's one I will still take off the shelf from time to time and play. It does one trivia footnote about it. It does one of those annoying things that a lot of bands did there in the mid-90s. It has a hidden bonus track at the end, but you've got to sit through something like 88 straight songs that are just 3 minutes or 3 seconds of silence to get to the last song. And that always just annoyed the crap out of me. It made it really annoying when you were trying to make copies of CDs or dub them onto cassettes, that you had to somehow you had to fast forward through, because they're on this one it's where it's like it's still part of the last track, so you can't just skip through all the individual tracks. You've got all this empty space so that the last track is like 20 minutes long. But it's 2 minutes of music, 17 minutes of nothing, and then 1 minute of music. And it made it a real pain in the ass to ever record that last song for people. which, if I remember right, it wasn't even very good anyway. It was more kind of a goofy number. But anyway, Pyogenesis, fun stuff. I always like it. Good example of what was kind of popular there in mid 90s. Death metal that was a little off kilter, but still quite reasonably heavy.
I remember watching that Death is Just the Beginning Volume 4 VHS, and you're going through all of the the Sinisters on there and Cataclysm early stuff, and then that Pyogenesis came on with an unpop song, and I thought somebody had taped over that part of the tape with something else. No, this isn't Nuclear Blast. This is Nuclear Farts. What's going on? It was not good.
I'm surprised they put it on there. That's
it was on there. It was a really, really shit click too, like just arty nonsense.
It'd have been hard to have found one that wasn't, though.
And on your other point there about the CDs with a hidden track, I think the most diabolical one I know of, and of course it came from Bloodduster. I don't know how they encoded it this way, but it was a negative track. It was before track 1, and only certain CD players could do it. So you get to track 1, you had to rewind, and you watch the player go to track -1 and go back into negative, and then you could play the track. It was, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, I remember one or two other bands doing that same gimmick. I hadn't thought of that in a long time.
Not all CD players would let you do it. So
yeah, you could not play it that way on a lot of CD players.
You, Marty?
All right, Marty. We've had some fun with Pyogenesis. So what you got next?
I'm going back to Germany, and this is a bit of a cheat. This is 2 EPs crammed together. This has got The Eternal Fall and Resurrection of the Third.
Bangers.
By Morgoth. This band was huge for me in the early death metal days, and in part, well, mainly because of Mark Griva's vocal style was just absolutely sick and disease sounding. I mean, you listen to this stuff now. I didn't think about it then much, but man, I hear a lot of old Death in this. This is like these guys are like kind of channeling that old demo and first Death album spirit and giving it a little bit of a German twist. But these guys were so good and not a lot of love, really. I mean, people say, "Oh man, that's killer," but you don't. I mean, they got back together and they put out some stuff. I don't know if they ever really got where they probably should have, judging from their status. They were there early on. They should have gotten a little bit more accolade, I guess, but they're on Century Media. The album after this, Cursed, is really good, a little more refined. The album after it, Odium, even more refined, a little bit of an industrial spirit kind of entering in some of the soundscapes. And then they put out their 4th album. Well, I guess their 3rd full length would be Feel Sorry for the Fanatic, which is like Killing Joke Worship. I remember people hated that stuff, but man, that album is so catchy. I love that record. I love it. It's a great record. Is it this? No, it's not at all. Mark is singing clean on it. And, but this has just got that old spirit, man. It's just so sick and awesome. So good. And hey, a little bit of Chicago love there with the Master t-shirt, Ken.
That's a great double act of 2 EPs there.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mark Grieve, his vocals were amazing. So good.
Love it.
Okay. Simon.
I will stay in Germany with you in the fatherland. This one doesn't come up very often. This is, you want to make me big? He's disappeared. All right. I'll just zoom in. Dark Millennium. Ashore the Celestial Burden. There we go. Great artwork on this. Very, very artistic. I think it also helps you think about the music, which is kind of proggy, sort of progressive death metal. It's a hard one to pin down. Doesn't sound like much else. It's sort of, I don't know, it goes anywhere from pandemonium to disharmonic orchestra. It's a big mix of things going on here. They're still active. Apparently an album came out like last year or this year. I didn't realize that they did more than this one album, so I will have to check it out. The vocals sound like they actually hurt, like bleeding throat kind of thing, really screechy. But it's a fantastic album. It's definitely one that's a few listens to digest. It's not progressive in a way that I want to make people feel off-put if you're not into that kind of thing. It's not going like, later era enslaved progressive or anything like that. It's just a bit more thoughtful in how they put it together. So yeah, Dark Millennium, Ashore of the Celestial Burden. Good album.
All right. That rings a bell. I feel like maybe I heard that once upon a time, but I don't remember it. But it definitely rings a bell. I mean, all right. Okay, I've talked about this album a few times before, but it fits this topic perfectly, so it just has to come off the shelf one more time. Considered maybe sort of a second wave or second tier Swedish band, but this is one of my favorite albums with that classic Swedish sound. It's Bitterness.
Good album.
By Desultory or Desultory, and we'll go with Desultory. Sounds a little fancier. Loved the cover on it. Really cool imagery there. Classic sort of Necrolord art. A lot of folks I know like Into Eternity better, and that's a very good album. Their demos were very good. This was a band that had a good push. Demos were of course a huge thing in the early Swedish scene, and Desultory's demos showed a lot of promise. And Into Eternity is a perfectly good record, but this one just is the album I always came back to over and over. Yeah.
It's the only one I've got. I need to get the one you've got there. I haven't got that.
Okay, yeah, and the Into Eternity, that was another Best Buy find for me back in the days. Just wandering around, I was just like, man, I'd love to find the
that
first
was on Metal Blade,
album.
I think. Wasn't that on Metal Blade?
It did get released through Metal Blade. I don't know if that was the original pressing. It might have been. And this one was definitely Metal Blade. And this was a case of random play on college radio one night. I think they played Life Shatters. And I heard it, and I remember just jaw hit the floor. I checked the clock and just like, the record store downtown is open for about 25 minutes. It's about a 15-minute walk there if I go fast. I literally just dropped whatever the hell I was doing, threw my coat on, and just like, jogged it downtown, through all, it was like probably a Friday or Saturday night, everyone's, out, in line at the bars and stuff. And like, weaving through the lines, trying to get to the record store to see if they had a copy of this on the shelf. And they did. And I bought it right away. Really good. It's, got, your sort of typical H2 Swedish death metal sound. This album in particular, I thought, had a stronger sense of, melody worked through it than a lot of the other albums did. Maybe that's why I liked it a little bit better than some of the others. Unfortunately, the band, after this album, the guitarist, Stefan Pogue, left the band, and I think he was one of the main songwriters in this era. And it really showed when the next album came out.
Bad.
It was followed up by an album called Swallow the Snake. Insert your own joke here. I'm being good tonight, and so I will not go there. It just, they really lost the plot once Pogue left the lineup. But hey, they left some good demos and two very, very good albums in their wake. They never quite get mentioned, on that same hierarchy as Dismember and such. But again, they came out just a little bit later. By the time Desultory was on Metal Blade, the fact they were on Metal Blade tells you that the Swedish thing had already kind of blown up pretty large, and there was a lot of competition by then. So we can go in a lot of directions with that title. Yeah. I'm being good tonight, so we're just.
But they got back together and they got a lot better. I've got one or two of their albums after Swallow the Snake, and they're pretty good.
They had to have gotten better because that album bottoms out pretty far down the ladder. But okay, if I have not heard anything after that point, so hey, if they got back on track, good for them. Glad to hear it. Absolutely. All right, Marty, with that, I'll pass it on over to you.
Well, no one's shown it, and it's got to be shown. Simon's wearing the shirt.
There it is.
This is an absolute fucking masterpiece of death metal, of Swedish death metal. You could put, there's been I remember back in the day when this came out, everybody's like, oh, Dismember, they're just an Entomb clone, which is really sad because if you really boil it down, I put this next to Left Hand Path. They're both amazing achievements. Don't get me wrong. but this has got more of a buzzsaw guitar and a lively production. And Override the Overture is maybe the best death metal song ever written. That song is a fucking masterpiece.
Cannot deny that.
No, I think Dismember just slightly beat out Entombed a little bit on Left Hand Path. I mean, that's a perfect album. This is maybe a little bit better than a perfect album.
Yep.
Such a fucking classic. And they took the HM2 tone and they made it they gave it more sizzle. It's just
chainsaw.
It's a total chainsaw guitar tone. And it sounds, I'm sure they didn't, but it sounds like they recorded in the same room. It's just got this production's got that lively feel about it. And the songs are just so vibrant and this, what's the word I'm looking for? They just seem so urgent. The songs come off as very urgent sounding. They're really excited about this shit. But this band, they maintained greatness for a long time, even up to the end. Their last album was great. I mean, the Massive Killing Capacity was the only real sidestep for me. I didn't hate it, but you could tell they were trying to kind of go the little bit more groove way, like a lot of those bands were doing during that time. I come around to liking it. I think part of it was the production. The production was a little rounded off for me, but
it's a bit muted.
Yeah, very muted. This and Decent and Obscene, the pieces fucking EP sounds like, they put their guitar pedals on a fry pan and a lot of oil and just fucking sizzled that shit. You're right, Chad.
Yep.
Dismember has the better discography. I do like some of the groovy Entombed albums, but these guys held the flame, man. They carried the flag right up to the end. Hopefully they're back together now, supposedly playing some shows. And I think they're reissuing this on vinyl with
it's long overdue.
Yeah, Dan Seagrave redid the cover. He showed it. I'm friends with him on Facebook. He showed some clips. He redid the cover. It's the same cover, just more detail in it. It's pretty cool. So I'm assuming that it's coming out soon on vinyl again, which it fucking needs it. So, because I don't think that Back on Black pressing, a lot of people have bitched about it. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't have an original of it. I got the OG CD and that's it. But is that OG? Of course it is. You fuck. Oh, little old Australia. Let's see. Go ahead. Show it off.
Flex. You want to.
It's a flex. No, I had to I had to sell an organ or two for this one, but definitely
you only need one kidney.
Yeah, well, that's it, right?
Silly pancreas. It doesn't do anything.
Here's a funny little factoid. My wife has 3 kidneys.
Well, then she could steal one.
Isn't that weird? It's weird. She's weird.
How does that even work? Actually, I don't want to know.
They're all functioning. One's not as big as the others, but it's weird. I don't know.
Okay.
She's a medical anomaly.
Is she any medical books?
I don't know.
Okay.
They found it during a heart cath. They're like, oh my God, you've got 3 kidneys and they're all working. Like, huh. Cool.
Very, very strange.
Yeah. Anyway, that's like a total sidestep there.
Yeah. No, the Dismember definitely needed to be shown. I played those 2 back to back this morning. Yeah, just to try to be like, where do I fall here? I think I probably put Left Hand Path just a notch higher than the Dismember, but they're very
so close. It really is.
Yeah, they're really side by side for the most part.
Yeah.
But just Dismember. I mean, Entombed's discography, as a discography, there's some other fun stuff here and there, but it's a weird discography for Entombed.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah, they didn't. In a way, they had that. They had the one big classic album right out of the gate, and then things got funny. Not all bad, but just very funny.
Yeah. All right, Simon.
All right. Netherlands for me. I think someone did mention this in the chat, so I thought I'd push it up a bit. This is an odd one. Delirium Zoo, which is the name of the album.
I want that T-shirt. It's such a great cover.
Isn't it great? But it's ZZOOOUHH. Zoo. I don't know. Always makes me think of Ghostbusters when she opens the fridge and the voice goes Zoo. Reminds me of that.
There is no Simon, only Yule.
But this is a real oddity. This one, it's very much that Netherlands sound. It's death doomy. There's a band. I wish I had a copy of it called Sempiternal Death Rain. I can't for love of money, find a copy of the thing, but there's similarities in the sound. This is from 1990, so it's pretty early. This is a reissue on, is it Memento Mori put this one out, because the original was pain in the ass to find. So happy enough to get this one. But yeah, there's a bit of like winter sound in here.
Okay.
Cyanide, asphyx. It's a mix of everything like that. So
really doomy then.
Yeah, it's got a little green bat in the spine. I don't know what's going on. Maybe that's zoo. I don't know. But the logo, look at the skulls eating the logo, tongues of fire. Anyway, yeah, a lot of Hellhammer. Yeah, definitely got that sound to it. Absolutely. There's a track on here called Bitch. Interesting. And voices from Zoo. So anyway, it's a strange one, but it's good.
Yeah. Just remember, Simon, if somebody asks if you're a god, you say yes. Yes!
All right.
Well, it sometimes is a little controversial album, but we really should touch on it for this topic. We got to talk At the Gates, and if we're talking At the Gates, got to talk Slaughter of the Soul. Yeah, I don't think anybody at the time this came out knew just how impactful this album would be down through the years. I mean, it was instantly hailed as an amazing album, and it really is. It's really solid. It's the band's earlier albums, some of them are good, some of them are kind of rough, but this was a big step forward in their catalog, and then the band fell apart, so they went out on a high note. But it's had such a big impact on different styles of metal ever since then, with the different approach to the vocals being a thing for I don't know, mall core, mellow core, core mellow, and you get into styles of metal I am not familiar with, but a lot of them harken back to that album as an early inspiration. And it is a really, really great album. Very intense, very forceful, good riffage throughout. Thomas's vocals really, really work well on that one. Again, some of the earlier ones I like, but some of them they're works in progress. It felt like it took them a little while to really find their sound, for me at least. I know some folks really like the earlier stuff a little better, but love it or hate it or whatever. It was a big benchmark in European death metal, so felt like definitely needed to at least touch base with At the Gates.
That album was exactly what I needed when it came out. I got that around when Hypocrisy Abducted came out. It was the right age. It was the right gateway CD. It was just the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason alone, I still have to like it.
Yeah, and I hadn't really thought of it that way because it wasn't for me. But yeah, I can see that being an excellent gateway album for people wanting to start to check out things that are more extreme and the like. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, I do want to do a shout out here. Scott, hey, Cyanide, I know them. Yes, you do. Cheers to Cyanide. You guys are awesome, Scott. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody doesn't know, he's a guitar player for Cyanide. Cheers.
Awesome.
Excellent band. Crushing band.
Crushing. Seen you guys a good 5 times in my life, and you were mighty every time.
Yeah. Ken is in the chat, and Ken, is the guy who recommended I check out Cyanide. They had been one of those bands I'd perpetually been like, yeah, I'll get around to checking it out sometime. Ken's just like, no, go. You will like this one. Go check it out. I was just like,
great band.
Okay,
great band.
I am smart enough to listen to Ken when he tells me to go listen to something.
Hell yeah!
And it was just like, the next day I'm like, digging around online. I was like, okay, let's see. Where can I buy their CDs? Let's get that one in the cart and that one in the cart. Still got a few to pick up, but I got a few of them now. So yeah, great band.
Cheers, man. Okay, I'm up.
You are.
I went and grabbed a few more things that people are asking for in the chat, but before that, this was an absolute favorite of mine forever.
Yep.
Fix the Rack. This thing is an absolute speaker shredder. The thing is so heavy and crushing. It would just shred your cones on your speaker. And Van Drunen, just his dehydrated vocal style is just absolutely crushing on this album. This is, to me, proper doom death. Not that they're super doomy, but they've got that slow plot about them. I always love this. And the riffs on here are just crushing. Absolute classic of I would say Danish. They're Netherlands, so I don't know how that works, but
Yeah, they're
Absolute-
Dutch.
they're Dutch. Absolutely amazing album. I did have Consuming Impulse pulled, but that didn't fit within the time zone. So thankfully I had this pulled as well, because this is a favorite of the Asphyx albums. This is my favorite album by far.
Yeah,
They put out a bunch of killer albums, but this one just had the most fire and detuned depravity on it. Absolutely killer. Great stuff.
It's a toss up with the first two for me. Depends on the day. Depends which one I'm listening to.
I think the Crush the Cenotaph is a good bridge between this and the first, but all killer. I mean, you can't really. It's splitting hairs. It's all good. They got a little bit more. They kind of started to lose me a bit on the last one on Earth. It was a little more. I don't know what it was. It was just a little faster pace, a little more streamlined. Maybe I didn't love the production, but this is just so deep and bowel churning. It's so good. Awesome album.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard that Asphyx. That was actually another one the same girlfriend turned up with. Wow, I didn't realize how much European death metal she listened to. Weird. But yeah, she got that tape somewhere and we were checking out. I remember the first time I played it or heard it listening to her, I didn't fully get into it, but I also remember it was one of those moments where I realized, like, this I'll bet is really good, and I'm just not wrapping my brain around it right now. I wasn't in the right mood or whatever, or preoccupied goofing around with her or something. I don't know. So it was one of those. It's just like, I don't like it now, but I'm going to come back to this, and I bet I'm going to like it when I do. And that's exactly how it ended up playing out. Yeah, excellent album from Asphyx.
It is. I really rate Death Hammer from maybe a decade ago now, maybe just a little short of that. That's a great album. They seem to have a good fire again in that one.
Yeah, their comeback album was really good with Van Drunen. It was really good too. The one before, was it called Death the Brutal Way? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't mind that one, but I thought Death Hammer, they really kind of nailed it. And the ones after it, I think they're not as good. Death Hammer just seems to stick out for me.
Scott wants to know if you got her number.
I do not these days. What did we say was on some of the liner notes? The no thanks comments from earlier.
Fuck off comments.
Yeah. Let's just say that that ship sailed a long time ago, and good riddance.
Right on.
Yeah. What did you all think of the Asphyx album from last year? What was it? Necroceros?
Everybody ran. I have never bought it. I don't own it.
Yeah, another revive actually.
I haven't got around to it either. So, wow, you guys are no help whatsoever.
Nope, we suck.
That's going to be on my tombstone.
Posers.
No help whatsoever. All right, Simon.
Okay. I think this might have been the third Finnish death metal album I got. I think the first one I got was Tales from a Thousand Lakes. Then I found Nespith in a secondhand bin, which was good. And then I picked up, I picked up this one, a Dramalek Psychostasia from 1996. I presume it's the same drawing and the same artist as the Demolich cover. I don't know. It's the same zombie-looking things. Could be wrong. These guys were great. A bit more intricate in the sound. It's not as bludgeoning. It's still incredibly heavy, but the songs are a bit more dynamic, I think, than a lot of their other brethren Finnish bands. They did a couple of EPs before, a few EPs after, I think, and maybe there's one other album in there, but I've only really listened to Psychostasia. Came out on Repulse back in 96. I think it's been reissued with the Fall EP as a bonus, probably on Relapse. Sounds about right. But absolutely. If you've checked out all the your Convulse and Demigods and all of that, and you somehow miss this Psychostasia, absolutely, got to check it out. There's some funny looking stuff going on there on the CD. Looks like they're all supporting the inner disc in a circle. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, good album.
Sweet.
Finland.
Alan.
All right. I've gotten to the bottom of my stack, and we touched on this briefly earlier, but did want to give it, just a sort of full official showing. Yeah, long before they became a hot topic band, yeah, In Flames, yeah, did great stuff, and Gesture Race, excellent album. This is a reissue thing. It's got the Subterranean EP included on it, and that EP in particular was the thing that really got me interested in this band. I heard it when it first came out through tape trading. This was the only way I ever could get a copy of it. But just the opening song alone, Stand Ablaze, just it almost has this funny power metal style riffing to some of the guitar work, but it's got the hallmark Gothenburg sounds too. And that track alone just told me this is a band that has found a really neat kind of new dynamic. And just based on that one EP, I'm like, this band is going to make waves. And obviously they very much did. But as good as Gesture Race is, Subterranean is probably still my favorite release from In Flames. I remember seeing them. I'm pretty sure it was their first show in North America was when they did the Milwaukee Metal Fest. It was right after Colony came out. If they had been over before, I don't think they had toured very extensively. And they got put on one of the, crappy little 20-minute time slots on one of the smaller stages while somebody else, bigger was playing out in the main hall. And, I couldn't care less who was on the main stage. It's like, oh, yes, I want to go check out In Flames. That room was so packed with humanity, just jammed in there. In Flames came out. They didn't waste a minute. They played as hard as they could for 20 minutes, and they just burned the place down. Everybody in that room was so into getting to see, this crazy new Swedish. They weren't new by then. They'd had several albums out, but you could tell like a lot of people were there for these 20 minutes. That's why they had come to Milwaukee. They wanted to see In Flames, and they did not disappoint. It was as good as it could have been. They packed as much into those 20 minutes as they could, and everybody just lost their minds. It was really, really great. And a few years later, they released Clayman, and we agreed to disagree and go our separate ways.
Thank you for their service.
It was one of those mutually agreed splits,
amicable split.
That there, what he said, one of those. But yes, but before all that stuff happened, stuff like Subterranean, those early releases, brilliant stuff.
Agreed.
All right. Up next. All right. This band oddly doesn't get much love for some reason. I mean, people like them, but this album in particular, Sweden's Vomitory Raped in Their Own Blood.
Oh, yeah. Great one.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Finland's Demigod was Slumber of Sullen Eyes. This is just a brutal fucking album. It's well written, brutal from start to finish, super heavy production, good songwriting, just an evil fucking churning death metal record from Sweden. When Sweden was full of all this melody and melodic shit, these guys just came up with, we're just gonna rip your faces off and give you death metal without all the frilly embellishments. It's just an absolute almost hit myself in the face. That's all the Newcastles. It's starting to sink in a little bit. This is a recent reissue I picked up, I think last year, 2 years ago, I don't know, but out of all the Vomitory albums, this is the only one I really cling to and have. This is one that finds its way on the turntable often. It's really well written, absolutely crushing death metal. Great stuff.
Yeah, good call. I haven't heard that in ages, but yeah, very solid.
That's the only one I've got from that band. I didn't pull it either, but you're right. It's just a brutal album. It's more like Vader than it is Swedish death metal.
Which we haven't shown any Vader, which is kind of sad.
Folks were asking in the chat, and I was kind of surprised. I've got
a ton of Vader. I got a ton of Vader. I didn't even think to pull them for some reason.
We mentioned Vader, but that was in the Crystal Age album.
Yeah. All right,
that was another Vader. They cloned him. Clones.
Well, I don't have any Euro demos to show Ken, I'm afraid, but I do have a pretty obscure CD. It is on Euro Records. Nobody talks about this because it's only ever had one issue and is impossible to find. This is Internal Decay.
Never heard of it. Never seen it.
Well, that's it. Internal Decay, A Forgotten Dream. Stockholm band, 1993. It's like this is the only press, as I said. It's just why nobody ever talks about this thing. Euro Records. I don't even know who that label is.
How many people in the band? They're like Earth, Wind, and Fire of death metal.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're all. I didn't pick this, but like it's all leather jackets, and then this guy didn't get the memo.
Well, he's probably their keyboard player.
I was going to say,
you'd be right. And these guys do probably have keyboards. It's very melodic death metal. It's somewhere between like it's recorded at Sunlight, but it feels like North From Here, Sentenced, and Sky Dancer mixed together, something like that. It was a really interesting pickup for me when I found it on eBay. I just sort of picked it up because of the cover art, and then after that, a few people were telling me that it was a lucky find because it's impossible to find. So I'm very happy to have it. But yeah, Melanie, if you want to get this one, you might have to sell something. And Marty, you could sell that third kidney if you really wanted to get into it. But yeah, no, it's really good. It's just a one and done from these guys. I really like the logo. It's very black metal. Anyway, yeah, Internal Decay, A Forgotten Dream. So yeah, check them out. Yeah,
sweet.
Pretty random.
Alan,
I've hit the bottom of my stack, so I'm going to pass right along to you, Marty.
all right. We talked about Hypocrisy, and this is by no means my favorite Hypocrisy, but when this came out, I spun the shit out of this, and it's the debut, Penetralia.
Yep.
Absolutely classic. They got a lot more refined and brutal and better on the second one. Pleasure of what the hell's the second one called? Oh my god.
Obscurum.
Yeah, Obscurum.
Yeah.
Yes. What the fuck?
Obscurum or something, yeah.
Too many Newcastles. But basically Peter was hanging out in the US with some dudes in the Florida scene, and he got inspired, went home and started his own project, and he kind of found his own sound as he moved forward over the years. But this is absolutely great, kind of brutalish death metal of the Swedish variety. Really good shit. I mean, this is not a secret. I think everybody knows what this sounds like, but I listen to the crap out of this thing.
That's great.
You got more, Simon?
I've got a truckload. How many is in your pile, Marty?
Well, I've got two more, but I mean, you can just keep going. Show a couple this time.
All right, I'll show a couple. Flesh Crawl.
You bastard!
I'll just show yours as well. Oh, see, I don't have that one. Bloody hell.
This is a Russian bootleg, by the way. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I got it for fairly cheap on eBay, and I know that's not the case.
Yeah.
But
if you pick $6.66, you got a bootleg, and you can thank Putin for it.
This is an OG tape when it came out.
Tape?
Yeah, I bought it from Camelot Music back in the day.
Okay.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is a great one. Black Mark, which is again why you can't get it. I think all of their albums up until the one with a really long, strange name, like we crossed the something of the Path of Fire or some shit. I don't know. We're all Black Mark, and that's why you can't get them. I don't know what the story is with that, why you can't get Black Mark stuff. But yeah, it's just
the owner's dead. That's one part of it. I'm sure they, someone was reissuing all the batteries, but
yeah, well, that's it. The battery seems to have survived. But
yeah.
Anyway, this is just a crushing album. It fits in with sort of Dismember style, very buzzsaw. I really want to get more of them, but yeah, that's Flesh Crawl. If you need to get one, get that one. We haven't done any Therion.
That's a great album. I love that record.
Fantastic.
I didn't think of Therion. I should have pulled some Therion. Yep.
That's a great album.
Yeah, with the Modern Invasion stuck on with Cement Triangle. The first two albums for me is all I want.
Yeah.
I know some people like the third, and some people like all of the operatic nonsense, but not for me. Just the first two.
The operatic stuff is cool, but it got they churned so much of it out so fast that it kind of I felt like they kind of burned out on that. Yeah. It was one of those things that every year you turned around and there was another 75 minutes of operatic Therion music. It's just like I couldn't keep up with them even if I wanted to.
No. I love the artwork on this one too.
That's a cool one. That was another Best Buy find for me back in the 90s.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, the Death Records pressing it's sitting there next to the washing machines, and the Windows 95 computers in a Best Buy in Ohio.
Windows 95. So you get your Packard Bell and you get your Therion.
I bought the tape, OG tape of that, and within the last 5 or 6 years, I said I want that on CD. So I found out a guy on eBay selling it. He had the picture of that cover, the original cover. I bought it. I got it. It was the reissue with just the black, it's like a black cover. They released them in all the same cover. It's so stupid. I was so pissed. I wanted the OG cover, even though it was a reissue. I still wanted the real cover, but
that stinks.
All right, I got one more here, and I'm just showing this because everybody was asking about it. Disastrous Murmur, Rhapsodies in Red, another Austrian band. Sick and old, sick and ugly. It's good classic old school death metal. Yeah, exactly, Scott. I fucked up. Researched my shit. I didn't. Yeah, I did all my research online. Anyway, this is a good album. This is the only thing I own by this band. This is a recent-ish Osmos reissue. Good stuff. So there you go, people. That's the last one. But go ahead, show.
All right, I will just fire.
Rock us out. Rock us out. Yep.
Everything.
Go for it, Simon.
Okay, so we got Carbonized for the Security.
It's a good album, man.
It's a good album.
Matt Karki. Cheers.
It's quite different to I think a lot of the Swedish bands. It's pretty raw, pretty fast and angry and dirty sounding thing. Vic Records repress. The original was very hard to get at the time. So was this one, Womb Bath. I always laugh at their name. Womb Bath. Internal Caustic Torments. I was looking for the OG when I found that Pertinence, and I couldn't. But this got reissued by Necroharmonic 7-8 years ago or something, and then promptly the band reformed and have been churning out albums. The first comeback album was actually pretty good. I haven't heard past that. But this has got demos and things and 7 inches from 1993. Finnish, no, Swedish, I can't remember. Womb Bath, really, really good. I'm surprised Marty didn't show this one. You must have Unanimated, no?
Ancient
God of Evil?
Yeah, I have that one.
Ancient God of Evil. This is sort of dissection-y, I guess.
Yeah, very.
Very dissection-y. I've got the debut as well, but this is the one I'm always turning to. Really good album out on No Fashion and House of Kicks.
Yep.
This was mentioned earlier, and nobody's shown it yet, I don't think. Gormit.
Oh, such a classic.
Yeah, this is great. I enjoyed playing this again yesterday.
I had 2 of their 7 inches. I gave them to a friend out of kindness, and I kind of regret doing it. Anyway.
Yeah. I would have stolen those back from the friend.
Yeah.
Get drunk at his house one time and just go through the box. These Gormit's fantastic. This artwork's terrible, but it's the album, and then a bunch of extra stuff, and they retitled it Darkness of the Dead. I think. What's the original title called? It's not that, is it? I can't remember what it's called.
I don't remember.
But anyway, it's been reissued yet again recently with the proper artwork on LP. So this is
Transcending Records did that.
Yeah, that's really good. I think these are Swedish guys. Crypt of Kerberos, World of Myths. This is one of those Adipoca, whatever it is.
Adipus. I always said Adipisur, but I don't know what the fuck it is.
Adipusur. Okay.
I don't know.
Out of 152. France, something.
Yep.
Frogs.
Folks in the chat were asking for keep a Kerberos earlier. So
it's a good one. I think it's the only thing they did.
No, I think
they do another one.
Let me check.
Not sure. I don't remember. But anyway, this is pretty stellar. The cover artwork was garbage, but distributed in America by Relapse. I hadn't noticed that. So there you go. Song titles very annoyingly written all around in the border. But,
you're right. That's they've got a couple comps and EP Into the Ruins.
Oh, right. Okay.
And their last thing was a 2017 compilation.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Well, here's another Swedish one. This is Uncanny.
Bleeding for Nyctophobia. Great album.
This is a really, really good one.
Yeah.
1994. It's like Left Hand Path with more blast beats.
Yep. I got that on record.
Yeah. Oh, right. nice one.
It's a reissue, but yeah, still
got some Edge of Sanity weirdness on it. You can't read a word of that back. They've just picked all the colors and thrown up on the thing.
Yep.
On Unisound, whoever that label is, but and this bloody weird looking blue reflective CD. Anyway, that's a really good one. Doesn't get talked about enough.
Ryan's asking you a question here.
It is a movie called Rotor, Rotor, and it is a piece of shit sci-fi actioner thing made for VHS or something, I think from like 86. The cover art looks just like Mad Max. You'll know it when you see it. But it is not as good.
But he's got the poster on the wall regardless.
I've got two posters, one that goes across and one that goes down, because I got them for like $1 and they fill up a gap. Yeah. This is a reissue through Dark Symphony's split of Excruciate and Epitaph, both Swedish bands. Both have done albums after, but they did this split way back in the day. Yeah, now here it is on CD. Just pretty, I mean, I can't talk too much about it. It's just pretty straight ahead Swedish death metal. I guess that's why they never became bigger. They weren't that different to any other bands. Excruciate's probably more harder. Epitaph's a little bit more melodic, but both are really good. We haven't talked about Seance. Or did we talk about Seance, did we? Did someone talk about Seance?
No,
somebody was just asking for Seance in the chat a moment ago.
Right. Forever Laid to Rest, absolutely classic. Sweden's answer to Deicide, I suppose. Doesn't sound Swedish whatsoever to my ears. I love that cover artwork too. I know Ben's a big fan of this one. Has a shirt and a flag, I think. But yeah, that's a great one. Also,
Simon,
on Black
somebody was asking
yep,
for a title you just mentioned.
Uncanny Splenium for Nyctophobia.
Yeah, weird bloody title, that one. I just got to quickly show Red in the Sky. It is my favorite At the Gates.
That is one of my least favorite At the Gates albums. I know. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. I just Tampa's vocals sound completely wrecked on it. The violin is stupid.
It's funny because he sounds wrecked now, like he's come full circle.
Yeah, he's come full circle, but it's like that album. He sound like they've been doing a lot of shows or rehearsing a lot. It was time to record, and his vocals were shot. But anyway,
I got yelled at once for listening to that record because I was playing it too loud in one of the fossil prep labs I worked in, and so one of the researchers across the hall came over and was like knocking on the doors. Was like, "Can you turn that down?" Just like, sure. No problem.
Ken, you're like one of the only people that's ever agreed with me on that. I mean, there's something about the production, his vocals, and Alf. He's just got such a weird.
Alf rules, man.
He his riffs are cool, but they're just almost unlistenable. They're so.
You shut your dirty mouth.
I know, they're just so like not musical. I don't know. It's weird, but that's his style. It's totally his style, and I get it. I just never clicked with it. I bought it when it came out, and I just never clicked with it.
There you go.
That's a classic. That's crushing.
Incantation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the out on who is this on?
Dolores
Records.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes, that was one I found in a Sydney record shop. So, yep, there you go. Lucky me. That's a good one. What else we got?
Fucking guy.
Simon's house is the only place outside of Ireland where leprechauns or dwell in the wild.
And he's got one in his back pocket.
Chained up in his garage watching Rotor all the time.
You leave Rotor out of this, man. Rotor.
I'm saying Rotor's an integral part of your luck. As long as the leprechaun is stuck watching the show, he can't leave the garage, and you can keep finding all these incredible records.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like sense. Lost. The leprechaun has to like hit the rewind button every 93 minutes to keep the luck cycle going.
This is Darkified.
That's a really cool chaotic record. I dig it.
Huh,
yeah,
cool.
This is really good. It's a demo and a 7-inch, I think. Repulse did a reissue of this thing. This is way back. I think it's had a more modern reissue lately with probably some live stuff on the end of it. But yeah, these guys had a really good sound. Darkified, dig that. Surprised we haven't shown this guy yet. Silence of the Centuries, another on the Adipocere, whatever we're going to call them.
Adipocere.
Camembert Depravite. It's only an EP, there was a reissue that is actually a funny thing. You can get a reissue on Dark Descent, but whenever I look it up, that reissue costs more than this original. Something happened. I don't know why that's the case.
That's really nice that the guy that did the Neospite album cover did that one too, by the looks of it.
It looks like it, right? He loves his shit tier zombies, but that's fine. I like him. This is a great one. That's a good one. Really burning through them. We mentioned Vomitorition in the chat earlier. Another great one. Leftover, I think that's the title of this guy. On Invasion Records. Had this one for a very long time. Yeah.
Invasion had a very small union with Metal Blade here in the States.
Oh yeah,
during the late 90s for a little while, maybe in the early 2000s. They put out like the Midwinter album and
I know that one.
Some other stuff. Yeah,
they're not mentioned on there, but this is a reissue of Autumno.
That's a great album. That's a great record.
Really, really good Swedish one.
I have that reissue as well. Very cool.
Yeah, it's got the A Light of Day EP on it.
Yep.
Very underrated stuff. I've never seen an original CD around. I'm sure they exist, but it seems to be like unicorn shit. You probably
Scott. I hate to say this, but man, I'm gonna have to hard pass on that comment. I mean, I like me some Obituary.
Got 2 good albums.
They've got 2 great albums, and then a bunch of meh albums that make you go meh. I don't know.
Chuggy, boring albums.
Would I rather listen to Pentacle or Obituary? I'm going to grab Pentacle every time. That's just the way it goes.
What else we got here? Hang on. I'm getting a little bit of notes because I haven't been doing any notes. All right.
Simon's Death Metal Crypt.
I can't take the mantle.
Take that, Ken. Take that.
He's got the demos, man. I've just got the CDs. Hazael, I suppose is how you say it. Thor. This is a band from Poland, 1993. Dark Descent thankfully reissued this one because it was very hard to get. Straightforward, very early Unleashed sound, D-beat, death metal, big chunky stuff. They apparently after this there was an album in 1996 that was written. You can find it on YouTube, but apparently was not actually released. So I don't know how it's on YouTube, but anyway, there you go. Hazael Thor. So that's a good one. 2 more to go. Luciferion.
Oh, hey. Okay, great.
Brutal.
I could talk about Lost Horizon now. The guitar player in Luciferion was also the guitar player in the mighty and amazing Lost Horizon. If you don't like them, check out Awakening the World and Flame to the Ground Beneath and be in awe of the power metal, majesty, and capes and body paint. All good. Go ahead.
Well, they got some sort of capey dress things going on here. It's I don't know what's going on there.
You got the Columbine trench coat mafia thing going on there.
That's cool. We're like 5 minutes away from Covenant with a K at this point, you know. But the music on here, this is brutal. Luciferion, this is
it's great.
Yeah, I don't know, sort of Vital Remains sounding stuff. I guess.
I've got the album after that, the one with the Dolly cover on it.
Yeah, I like that too. It's a bit of a hodgepodge. It's like half an album and then some. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's like a recorded EP or something. I can't remember. It's not a full thing. This is a full thing. It's really good. And the last one that I will show, and I love this one to death. This is the split between Sweden's Altar and Finland's Cartilage. This is a Drowned pressing. There are 2 demos that these bands did. I've had this CD since the late 90s. This was one I picked up because wow, that artwork's terrible. I'm going to buy it, and it is. This is pre-Photoshop. Like this is, you can't tell on the screen, but like it is pixelated to death, and that is just how it is. But yeah, this thing is so good. It's not the Denmark Altar. This is Sweden's Altar. I think they might have existed again, but Altar's on here is really good. But the Cartilage stuff is some of the best Finnish death metal. And it's a shame that technically it's a demo and that's as far as they went. They all went into different other bands after that. I think I took some notes on that. Let me just quickly scan to see if I did. I'll sit here holding it. No, I thought I did, but I didn't. Yeah, this is outstanding. It has had a reissue with less shit art, but I think you need the shit art for the complete experience. You can even get it on LP with the shit art, which I would really, really love to get So there you go. Sweden's altar and Finland's cartilage.
Well, go tickle your fucking leprechaun. I'm sure it'll show up at the fucking dollar store.
It might.
You might.
And we are done here. That's me.
Everybody, y'all rule. Thank you, Simon, for joining us again. Of course, we'll be getting you back. Everybody in the chat, you've all ruled tonight. Everybody go check out Cyanide from Chicago. Absolutely crushing old school death metal. Check out Ken's Death Metal Crypt. Check out Melanie Loves Death Metal channel. Check out Let's Talk Metal. Let's go check out Explosive Action.
Please do.
And go buy a goddamn Heavy Metallurgy shirt. I got them. They're cool. Show it off, Alan. Show it off.
There we go.
There it is. Woohoo! In streaming, there is no law. Very nice. Very nice.
Yep. Great art by Nate Burns. Thank you, Nate.
Hell yes. And everybody, yes, we missed a ton of bands. A ton of bands.
You can't mention them all. No way.
You can't mention them all. You know, Vader, we fucked up. We didn't show any Vader. I mean, that's a faux pas. But
we didn't even show the Entomb that's in the background, did we?
We didn't.
We
Not
didn't.
that we need to, but
No,
Oh,
we
great, like-
talked. Yeah.
We talked about it. I mean,
I did miss one actually. There you go, Grave. Now
Oh,
now
hold
we're
on.
complete.
Marty
Oh,
didn't
okay.
mention Grave. I figured Marty.
I
did
looked at it
Grave.
and I couldn't decide which one to pick because the first three are pretty all in. I even love Soulless. I was like, should I pick Soulless? It's their
I like
groovy
the
one, but
first-
I love
the
that
first
record.
two are fantastic for me. But yeah, there we go.
But thank you everybody for hanging out with us. And eventually we need to get Ken back on here. I know he's being like, I didn't want to do it anymore, but you're coming back, Ken. We're going to get you on for a show.
If someone's going to show the Euro death metal demos, it's got to be Ken because I don't.
Yeah. I
Ken's
can't
asking
hang.
Ken's asking for an episode about death metal demos. We've already done that. It's a channel called Ken's Death
Ken's
Metal
Death Metal
Crypt.
Crypt.
Ken,
Yep.
you should go check it out. I think you'll like it. They've got exactly what you're looking for there.
Oh, your mouth says no, but come on. You'll do it. We'll get you. We'll get you back on, Ken. Anyway, everybody, thank you. It was another great night. Simon, thank you again for spending your time with us in the future.
You're
And
welcome. Yeah, 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturday.
absolutely. And their toilets flush in the reverse fashion, everybody, just so you know that. I didn't know that until today. So I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. Something with gravity and shit. I don't know.
Coriolis effect. There you go.
But thank you, and we'll see you next week. Actually, Wednesday there will be a glorious album club on Wednesday night.
Good.
We're
deal.
going to be covering Rage's Trapped. Alan, if you'd like to get in on that, you're more than welcome. We're down 2 men, so you want to jump on?
I'll
Come on
see
in.
what I can do. We're barreling towards final exam week pretty fast and hard. So
We'll get you next month. We'll get you next month. But
we'll see if I can help move the Rage episode. I know the Rage album fairly well, so I might be able to help prop that one along. We'll see what I can do.
and if anybody wants to get a recap and a different view of some of the albums that were shown tonight, go check out Melanie Loves Death Metal channel, because after tonight, I'm sure she'll have some of these albums to show, because she's been furiously writing them down and probably buying them in a drunken stupor down there in Florida. Cheers, Melanie. Have a good one. Y'all have a good night. We're bailing. See ya.
See ya.
Take care.